Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off, Jesse.
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
What up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Dump with Austin Picard from the Underclass Podcast. And here with me this morning, the homie, Jose Galison from No Way Jose. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
What is up? Welcome. We're here for another morning. I almost said already dead. Another morning dump. Let's get to it. I thought I was gonna have today off, by the way, so that's why we kind of had Austin leading the way here. Usually it's like it gets a little bit behind the scenes. People see. Usually I'm the one who like shows up and makes the links and all that stuff first, and then but the days that Austin does, he does. So it will be mostly an Austin-driven episode because he has whoever makes the links is usually who has like the bajillion tabs up. So it'll be mostly an Austin-led episode, which is fine. Whatever, cool. I like this.
Oh, man.
I occasionally let one of us take the lead or whatever. So hey, that works. Yeah. You kind of almost the nature of this. You almost need, if there's both of us, you almost need one person to kind of semi take the lead. But I have tabs too. But with that, man, it sounds like you have. I'm looking at this title. These are some solid recommendations. North Fox Island, Lev Tahor, which actually surprisingly we didn't realize. You didn't realize this, but I've covered on the show on the Morning Dump. That might be before I started doing timestamps though, so it might be hard for you guys to find. And I'm not entirely sure if it was included in the title or not. But either way, it's a very interesting cult. But we have an interesting, interesting day. Yeah.
I think like the global implications, which is what we tend to, at least it grabs my attention every single time we kind of focus on these investigative cases, these very deep and detailed cases like Dutroux or, like the Spartacus Network, which really it ties directly into that snuff film child pornography enterprise that I think was definitely in full swing and also is still very much to this day. It's just been effectively covered up, and that's what people aren't aware of is like, you remember whenever I had first brought it up, I mentioned Francis Sheldon escaping to, I think, the Netherlands. I'm trying to remember now which country it was, but they have like, of course, like ridiculous age of consent laws and very, very, suspect child pornography laws as well. And then also like,
you read Eye of Chicken Hawk, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where I remember reading there. It's something ridiculous. It's like you could do pretty awful shit and get like a year or less type shit. Like it's wild. Like it's.
Oh. And even in some cases, in the vast majority of cases in I think the Netherlands, but it turns out apparently even if you're a child underage, the parent themselves have to have an issue with the abuse that has taken place and report it themselves for any sort of like consequential outcome, any kind of accountability to take place. So yeah, it's pretty extraordinary how much that goes under the radar as far as just people not being in complete outrage over that fact. I mean, I don't know how it would be viewed as like a cultural difference, but in certain ways you can see in like, right, in regard to even Afghanistan, let's say, yeah, man, where it's justified in this cultural framework, and it's just like, geez, what are we doing here, But
I think quick before we get
go
into
ahead,
content, I did want to let the audience know we so they're not keeping an eye out. Just to be polite to them.
Oh, yeah.
We were supposed to go on a tinfoil hat yesterday with Sam Tripoli. Jules still did, by the way. Jules went on yesterday. There was an issue on the booking side of things. So we didn't go yesterday, but we'll be on next week. So they were like, oh shit, we fucked up. But with that, actually, while we're kind of on this topic, this sort of ties in because I was gonna plug this on Tinfoil Hat, but I mean I still will.
You going on Ramsey today?
I'm going on Ramsey today too. But what I wanted to show is this. I got Top Lobster to do a kind of an overhaul of our branding somewhat, and also set up a merch page for us. So you see Artie Dead. I mean, you can see this. Look at his new design for Artie Dead. I dig this. I think I might want to like kind of maybe make some minor changes to the color scheme, but I like where it's going. Yeah. I kind of want to make it more like the color palette that we're currently working with. I mean, it's almost there. I want some more of those like greens and stuff from Artie Dead. Yeah. But either way, you can see where it's going. It's playing off. You can see the insignia for Gladio in the middle there.
Damn.
And then it's kind of cool, it's a Deadhead, like the I love that. God, what is it? Grateful Dead, kind of like that skull. So I think it fits. I think it's
all
good
day too.
Yeah, and then he's got an Operation Gladio shirt, which I really dig the hat. Like, look at that fucking hat. That hat's sick.
That is sick.
Yeah, I'm getting that hat for sure. Like, yeah, look at that fucking thing. Doesn't it look sick? And then I got my old No Way Jose, the Yiki, and the Trying to Do shirts are back, which those have been gone for a while. A lot of people didn't ask about them. So probably, I mean, there'll be more. We'll keep an eye out. Probably more. They'll update in the future. But you just got to go to toplobster.com. You can look for Artie Dead. I think it's even at the homepage. Like if you go to Top Lobster, see I'm at the homepage now. You see all these drop downs: Liberty Lockdown, Nephilim Death Squad, Liberty Lockdown again, Tower Gang. I don't know why I got two. You see us over here off in the tab. I think it's supposed to scroll over. So you click, boom, or you can go to look for Artie Dead. So that'll be. I mean, maybe we can get some like the underclass. I know you have your own merch stuff too, so I don't know if you want to include that in there too. That's on you. I mean, most people don't make much off merch; it's mostly just promotional, so it might be easier to throw it in here. But yeah, no. So keep an eye out for that. There'll probably be more. Probably tighten up some of the branding. Maybe see if I can go to put like the OG Already Dead one there too. Maybe do like a limited release. That way it's like only the OG Already Dead people before we blow up and make it big. That have that old fucking stupid fucking meme. The meme thumbnail I just grabbed. Which I mean, like I grabbed it because it was like a good placeholder of the exact like vibe I was going for, but not the exact art. Like I knew I wanted that to change at some point. I'm not an artist, but I was like, that's the aesthetic I'm going for. And I think this captures it. I mean, I think this kind of captures the idea. It's still the same kind of feeling. I think especially once you punch up the color a little bit and get it more like the similar color to it. But he's kind of already getting what I'm getting at. But anyways, that's out there. I go check that out. Go buy some merch, some Artie Dead, Gladio, No Way Jose, Yiki, Trying to Do. Keep an eye out, probably more in the future. But yeah, I just want to share that because that was something I got Top to throw together for. Considering Tinfoil Hat was popping up, I was like, "Yo, let's update the fucking." Because honestly, that's probably like where so far as our branding, that was probably the spot we were lagging the most. Was like the Already Dead side of things.
Oh man, yeah. No, I've just been winging this fucking thing from day one, brother. I'm doing my best. I never imagined that. I would kind of have to become familiar with certain things that in the context of doing the show, but it's been a very interesting journey, and I've appreciated every step of the way. So it's been fun. But
that's why it's good to know people like friggin' Top, because it's like you can outsource that stuff because it is like you got to do everything. Like when you're a podcaster, you got to be the guy who puts out releases the episodes. You got to cut up clips. You got to do all these different things. Unless you get a lot of people get like super big and they get to a point where they outsource it. But if you're starting from the bottom, like you're not a known, you're not like somebody jumping from already being in TV to like podcasting, and now I'm just paying someone to do all my shit. You're doing all this stuff yourself. So it's great. It's great to have people like Top out there to be able to do the merch, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, you make money. You don't, just going to throw it out there. Anyone who's ever looking to get in the game there, you don't make a lot off merch. You make almost nothing off merch. But now if you're somebody like Top that has a bunch of different brands that you're selling merch for, like, you can actually get to a point where you're making money. But if you have like one brand, like even big shows, like say somebody like Clint, like my buddy on Liberty Lockdown, I don't know how much shirts he sells, but honestly, if I had to guess, it's probably less than 20, maybe even less than 10 in a month. And so it's like, and that's a big show. That's a good size show. So it's like people just, but it's more of a promotional thing. It's just that merch usually just doesn't sell like crazy. So, but now if you're somebody at the top, so it is kind of like, it's almost like it's a bit of a waste of your time somewhat to do it yourself a lot of times. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, cause it's like, you had to figure out how to do it yourself, all the different, whatever goes into that. So, but yeah, it's easier just to outsource it to somebody. But anyways, I'm rambling. I'm telling people how to make the sausage. I know you guys don't like this. Probably ought to get to some content. We do have plenty of content to go through. If anything, we're probably going to leave content on the table and come back tomorrow with some of this content because me and you both came stacked with tabs. But I'm deferring to you for this episode since you took the lead. It only makes sense to let you pick most of them. Although I had a couple that I requested. I guess probably if you don't mind, well, I'll take the first one since I think it was one we both wanted to talk about anyways. It was about the House passing the budget resolution. That's going to increase the military spending by $100 billion. I guess I'd even kick around the idea of doing $150 billion, and that got that. Then for some reason they didn't.
But I thought we were cutting military spending, Jose.
Right. Well, I mean, we also at the same simultaneously. They just recently, I think I covered it yesterday. We have Putin. Trump had offered that idea to Putin to cut our shit by 50%, and Putin even himself just yesterday.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Or maybe it was the day before. He's gonna knock on the door. That's weird. All right. Anyways, you want to read this article real quick? I'm gonna see who the hell's at my door. I got to knock, so I'll be right back.
Good, brother. All right.
But wait, what was I? No, real quick. Let me finish my thought. What were we saying? I'm sorry. I was in the middle of thought, and there's something I was saying. I just want to make sure I didn't leave something on the table.
I don't even remember now.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. Oh fuck! Well, I can't pass this off to you to read because that makes no fucking sense.
I got it pulled up. It doesn't matter.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Read it. Just
all right, brother. Whenever he gets back, I'll let him pick up wherever I stop. So basically, yesterday it was published on antiwar.com that, of course, the House passes this budget resolution, which of course increases the military spending by $100 billion. So this, of course, is directly, in opposition to the sort of the propaganda that we've been fed for the past couple weeks surrounding, these budget cuts and especially military spending. And so, you want to go ahead, dude? Because I didn't even start.
What? All right. Well, there's some fucking solicitor. All right, let's get it. Just House passes $100 billion. Oh, I remember what I was rambling, but I was just saying they were trying to pass more, and then I got squirreled. Like, oh, squirrel. So like I got distracted. So that's all I was saying. It was nothing important, but I was like, was it important? It was middle of thought. I couldn't remember. But yeah, I guess we don't really feel like we really need to read this too much. I mean, they're passing $100 billion. I mean, Massey voted against it. That's kind of the key thing to know here. He was like the only Republican to vote against it. I believe the Democrats pretty much for the most part all voted against it as well. But it passed through. So
at the bottom. At the bottom.
Oh, the Iron Dome shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that's been something that I don't know if you remember this, but that was an executive order a while ago. To I don't know what the specifics of the executive order. I mean, I think it's the dumbest shit ever. We talked about it a little bit yesterday because it is an insane amount of money. But now what I really wanted to show is we've talked about quite a bit about DOGE, and like everyone's getting super hyped about DOGE, and you're like, oh, this is fucking dope. Like we're going to be cutting all this and that and this, and that's great. I mean, I want to be very, very clear. I have no problem having this, but me and you have brought up multiple times the idea of like, I'm not entirely sure if it's just like, are we cutting this money and then we're just spending it elsewhere? Like, how is this working? Like, is the bottom dollar still, is the bottom dollar moving? Because that's really what kind of matters. I mean, I guess it's better than like not cutting the $65 billion and also adding $100 billion. Like, don't get me wrong. But, I kind of jumped ahead of it. Anyways, right here, I found the DOGE website where they track their savings. Total estimated savings so far is $65 billion. And we just passed $100 billion in the House. And I guess to be fair to DOGE and I guess to this budget bill or whatever the fuck, I mean, to be fair, it's like, there's going to be more DOGE savings to come. But on the flip side, it's like, who's to say there's not going to be more spending to come? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're
I've never
already
seen one administration who has balanced the budget first of all, and then who has left the their as far as just left DC in their position in the administration without increasing or just entirely increasing the government spending, right? Like outpacing the prior administration. Every single administration right, spends more than the prior. So I can't see that effectively changing in any way. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. It would be amazing. I'm holding out hope. That would be ideal. But yeah, I'm very much concerned that the redirection for most of this spending will just be redistributed elsewhere to, in many ways, kind of like potentially implementing this new dystopian vision for the infrastructure replacement, which everyone views as potentially being a positive thing, when in reality it seems like the pivot toward the technocracy, which is very concerning, especially considering the technocrats surrounding Trump. I mean, it seems like in every way they're going to present this sort of AI public health revolution integrated with biometric, new health biometric measures and for public health. And again, this is all like the perfectly in line with the vision for the Great Reset, right? Which that is my ultimate concern. And another reason, which by the way, let me just play this to kind of like set that theme, because this is kind of ridiculous how many similarities there are to this agenda and the individuals who the power brokers, allegedly the individuals who are presented as the power brokers, right? Like that's really more the case, I think. But this motherfucker right here, Klaus Schwab, he has a vision for our dystopian, totalitarian, technocratic future.
It's like a turtle out of his shell.
And his mentor was Henry Kissinger. And you can pull up all those videos and pictures. And when you see Trump committing to Davos, I don't care who the fuck is making the claims that he's withdrawing funding from the World Economic Forum. He's still committed to the agenda. And so this is what a limited hangout looks like. This is what, smoke and mirrors is designed to deceive. And so when we just have to remain skeptical and acknowledge the deception as it comes. And that's what I think is most important. But briefly, just look at how many different agenda items and benchmark items that the World Economic Forum shares with one Elon Musk, which I think is a perfect example.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Are you vaccinated, if I
Yes.
may ask?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very pro-vaccination.
Yeah.
I believe the science is unequivocal.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants.
Just fourth industrial revolution, man.
Planted into our brains.
Basically implanted in your skull. So, but you would be flush with your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You put the electrode, you'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain.
It doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you if you take a genetic editing.
It's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. That's really the essence of the fourth industrial revolution.
A merger with biological intelligence and machine intelligence.
An effort for man to merge with machine in a healthy way.
Yes.
To beat machines, you basically have to merge with machines.
Most likely, yes.
As work is changing, is a universal basic income really a solution to this problem?
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. And I think some kind of a universal basic
Can you pause it real quick?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Decarbonization of the economy.
UBI pisses me off because it's just like I don't understand why these guys just like don't understand. Because especially since their reasoning is because they're trying to innovate their way. Like their reasoning would be like, because this is like the Altman type mentality. Elon I think has it as well. Maybe probably Thiel. This idea that we're gonna super innovate. That we're gonna super innovate in the future, and we're gonna AI and also is gonna drive away, get rid of so many jobs, and there's gonna be so many people out of work and blah blah blah. And it's like. I guess to be fair, I guess it's like maybe the misunderstanding here is it's like who knows, maybe they're in the know and they're devious individuals, or it's that they're just not that economically savvy. And if you understand how this works, if we I know this. Everyone's always scared. Oh no, we're gonna lose jobs. This, that, this. And it's just, it's the same idea as like, oh no, being worried about like a car coming along when when we had horses. And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, there's gonna be different jobs likely for one, and on top of that, even if there aren't, let's say we make this magic. There's these things. Somehow we innovate to where so many jobs are gone. That just reduces costs. Right. like I mean, obviously on an individual level, if you're someone who loses a job, that sucks. But if you're looking at it from like a group level, it's if anything, it's actually a positive advancement altogether. It makes it so people need far less money in order to be able to survive or thrive, and they probably have to work less now too.
Right, but I
don't
think
need a UBI.
it's to get you on the dole.
On the
right?
teat, on the teat.
Yeah, and to control the outcome in every way.
Yep.
And I think that
yes, it's control.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
because in this situation, when you have UBI, and you're like, I need this. You've set this welfare system up.
Yeah.
Now now this is when you run into issues with things where like, oh well, now we get into a CBDC, and you're like, oh, you can't get bread because of X, Y, and Z, and it's like,
Trucker
oh well, we could
protest
also take
is
away your
perfect
UBI.
Yeah.
But if we were in this other alternative, like I mentioned, say we do innovate like crazy, but we don't do UBI. Let's say all these tech people, and say they don't get involved with government. Let's just say just naturally, organically, through the free market, we innovate like crazy, and so many jobs get demolished. If anything, that's the opposite. Now we have people who don't have to work as much in order to have the same amount of income, and that actually ends up being a better life. And you don't have that now. You no longer have this control from the government because.
Right.
It's if anything, it's kind of funny. It's almost like the communist dream and like the idea of like, oh, we'll all just be able to do what we want. That's from capitalism. That's from innovating like crazy. That is like, but now if you implement something like a UBI or something, now it's not quite that. Now it's a controlled, as opposed to an actual freedom from what the commies would think the yoke of reality. It's like, no, we innovated to where we made it so we were able to accommodate to reality so much more easily.
You tie that in with the WeChat model in China, really it's like the everything app, which is what X is kind of the ambitions behind X, which from day one Elon has been vocal about. It's not hidden, and the financial interests backing that as well. I mean, you have Chinese interests, special interests, which that were directly involved in cultivating and manufacturing the WeChat model. So they are now directly involved with assisting Elon in cultivating this dystopian everything app for X, basically being that platform. And so what happens if they tie UBI into your social media platform, which is now your banking institution, and then all of a sudden you tweet about the Jays and you're fucking debanked?
And now what happens if you let the richest man in the world dump loads in you? Do you get more UBI?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, man, I don't know.
See, Jack gets it. UBI will be tied to some sort of CBDC, and you have to turn over your rights based off some kind of debt forgiveness. Exactly. Yeah. The last thing they want is these people to get out of this. Because the beautiful thing, in a certain way, like this vision of the future these technocrats have is, aside from the government side of things, if you take out it's almost why you can get why people be wrapped up in it, because you're like, this is beautiful. But it's like, once you take the government side of it, then you get what they're talking about. It's the government that fucks it all up, because it is like, they're going to control you through this because they don't want you to, like, let's say we do get to a situation where people say we fucking like innovate like crazy, and we eliminate a bunch of jobs, and now people don't have to work as many hours because we've innovated so much. Now you're in a situation where you're paying less taxes. So it's but it makes more sense now. It's better if they have you on a UBI. You are connected to them. You're stuck in their system now. Whereas like you would still be in the system in this other alternative, but you would be less so in this system because you're in a situation where you're essentially paying less taxes. I mean, I guess I'd probably raise taxes, but still, I guess let's finish this.
It's not very long anyway.
Yeah.
Where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker.
Yeah, and that itself could affect your purchasing power and in regard to just going grocery shopping. So you've met your limit for even buying alcohol, let's say, for the month, or it would be much more of a I guess alcohol is not the best example, but I'm just saying, like,
Oh, they'll let you keep having that.
you probably
Yeah.
will be able to buy
Yeah,
alcohol.
we
for
were
the
able to get alcohol during the fucking COVID.
I know, man.
It's so
But,
fucking wild.
dude, for
Especially
sure.
now where I don't really drink at all. I mean, the last time I drank is when I went to Sam Tripoli's show. No, that's not true. When my wife was gone, I think like a month ago or so, I went and got food, and I just happened to get a drink at the bar. But it was like a little bit of scotch. That was about it. But even then, it's like it was before that. It was months before I had a drink. So it's like I just don't drink. Every once in a great while in a social setting, maybe I will. Yeah, I treated myself. I got a big old boil of crab legs, and I was like, I'm gonna have some scotch with this. Let's fucking go
Nice.
wild.
Yeah, that does sound good.
But let's finish this video. Sorry. I don't remember
Stay
what I was talking
tuned.
about
We
there.
don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
I mean, my top recommendation, honestly, would be just to have a carbon tax.
This global reset is necessary.
All right.
I will
hell
say
yeah.
some of these are a little bit cheap. In that, actually, honestly, most of them are a little bit cheap.
They're all accurate, though.
Yeah,
There's
they're all
not
accurate.
One of them
but
aren't
it is like
right?
it is because the thing is, like, anyone in that class, I feel like probably has very, very similar. Like the Silicon Valley, billionaire class, I think they're pretty much all like very similar. So I don't. It's
Oh yeah, absolutely.
so I guess yeah. I mean, it's definitely something to be aware of. I think, but yeah.
There's the homie Larry Ellison from Oracle, right? CIA construct from day one, just like Palantir.
Yeah, this dude's pretty
His
big.
very first right business partner was of course the CIA and the intelligence agencies, but they have like you're saying, this is a shared vision for the future. You know
People
what I
need
mean?
to remember these are government contractors. These aren't private people. Like they act like these are like we're sold this idea. These are public private. I guess they're technically not government, but they're not this idea. Like we're always sold. Like hell, even Elon himself was sharing stuff from like Ayn Rand. And you're like, that's not you. I mean, I guess Ayn Rand would probably disagree, but it's like, but Ayn Rand was a little bit, I didn't agree with all of her shit. But either way, the point being is that they're like these great private entities, these self-made men. It's like, no, you guys took a fuckload of government. Like you literally, that's theft. That's based off theft. You stole from the government people over and over again. I mean, I don't even necessarily begrudge so many people for doing that, depending on the situation. I kind of get it. But at the same time, it's like if you're trying to then lift yourself up as like I'm the businessman here and I'm the one saying the thing, and you're like, no, you're someone with very tied in incentives to this structure right now. And I don't know, it's anyways. I guess let's listen to this fucking ghoul has to say.
For real, it's the ultimate example of the UN model, I think, right? And especially knowing and understanding the Rockefeller and Rothschild connection to the foundation of that model to begin with, and how I believe that to be, the primary, at the very least, what we should prioritize as far as spotlighting for the example of how you really undermine the structure of modern society to your and really kind of mold it to your own advantage and benefit, to where you can exploit these things, right? These connections, these private and really what inevitably become these private organizations in all various different industries they're represented, and so you have them represented in the publishing field. Like we can point to that in regard to Mockingbird, and then also we talk about Mullen and Company all the time, because the CIA cover contract is just a great example of how they operate in that landscape of public and private. And this is an example of how it functions in modern day, I think, and as far as Larry Ellison, Oracle, Palantir, Clearview AI, each. I mean, Larry Fink and BlackRock, by the way. I mean, they call him the Emperor God King for a reason, right?
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
guy. Which one's this one? This guy has Oracle. I always mix up because I'm a tech tart.
This is Larry
so,
Ellison.
Well, I know it's Ellison. I know. I know who they are, identify them. What I struggle with these fucking dorks is remembering which ones have which fucking nerd fucking op. Like, 'cause there's like Palantir, there's Oracle, there's like. There's like another one that has some sort of fucking Lord of the Rings fucking name. There's with like anthrol or something. There's a lot of weird.
Andurol. Yeah, I think
Andurol, yeah. There's
yeah.
Andurol. I forget. I think that's one of the Silmarils. Or not Silmarils. I think it's one of the
I think it's Andurol, I think is what
isn't
it
that
is.
one of the Seeing Stones, I think, in Lord of the Rings, I think?
I
The
know
one
that
Saruman uses.
I know the Palantir is. So
No, the Palantirs. I'm retarded.
Yeah.
Not but the Anthrol. I'm trying to think. Or Andurol or whatever. I swear that's Lord of the Rings too. Anyways,
I wouldn't be surprised, man.
Yeah.
The nerds are gonna kill us, brother.
Yeah, and it's so creepy. Palantir, if you understand, if you've read Lord of the Rings and you know what a Palantir is, like there's a dark like component to it. It is like it is this idea that like I think the idea was that it was supposedly tainted by either Morgoth or Sauron's like evil, so it's imbued with its evil. But it initially was supposed to be this like thing that people used as like a seeing stone to see around, like wizards could use or whatever, and use magic. But it got like it got I think it got tainted by evil, the evil that was imbued into the world. Arda is what they call it, by Morgoth, and that's what fucking that's why like people of like lower power, and even Saruman, that's part of what corrupted Saruman. So like, you know, Saruman's the bad guy in those movies. That's like a part of it. He was looking at things he shouldn't have. He was being corrupted by the Palantir.
Yeah.
Sauron was
Plus,
using the influence of the Palantir against him. It's a pretty apt comparison.
100%, and it's really an all-seeing eye as well, you know.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah,
wasn't this fucking weird? The ones I was talking about that will look at everything all the time, but it will if you're going to the bathroom or something, it just won't collect it or something weird. I forget. It was something odd. It was like, if you're doing something that's like inappropriate, we just won't look at that. You're like, well, I don't know. I just don't like the idea of you looking like that.
Right.
It's like,
No
I'm
shit.
just supposed to take your word at it. You're not gonna look at me when I take a dump.
Dude, especially after Vault 7, where we know that they can at any point in time you know, target any of our appliances and you know, record our movements and anything that we're saying, and even get visual if they would like to, which that's extraordinary in itself, man. And that's years ago at this point, right? And so I don't know, it's interesting to me.
By the way, Doc Torrey's saying the story there is that evil can affect everything, not that technology is evil. If you're trying to say that in relation to the Palantir in Lord of the Rings, you are correct, because the idea is that evil can affect everything. Morgoth himself, it's kind of obviously Morgoth's kind of a parallel for original sin, I guess you could say, in that he imbued it. Like there was a perfect world of Arda, Morgoth came into it, corrupted it, he spread his evil throughout it. It's kind of a parallel for our current world, original sin, those type of ideas. So yes, the idea isn't that the Palantir itself is necessarily evil, but it did. I guess it is kind of at this point, but it got infected by evil essentially. So yeah, evil infected it. But you know, originally it wasn't evil. It was like, I think something, I forget where it originally came from, if it was the Maya or if the elves or what. But it was something that like was a dignified thing that was like, but it got corrupted over time. So, anyways, enough Lord of the Rings. But
if you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And, you know, in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform. So we provide context. When we want to ask a question, we've provided that AI model with all the data they need to understand our country. So that's the big step. That's kind of the missing link. We need to unify all of the national data, put it into a database where it's easily consumable by the AI model, and then ask whatever question you want.
On his phone.
100%. But you tie this into the behavioral, basically the social credit system, right? Which is what they attempt to, or I've basically, you can pull up Larry Ellison having that conversation as well, where he's essentially laying out the foundation for how they can, you know, deliberately socially engineer the public just by kind of really basically it's by punishing you, you know, for having wrong ideas, bad think, you know. And it's very interesting to have all of this, you know, essentially all of it's the perfect storm, right? It's all these different factors, and as far as the benchmarks are concerned and agenda items in play, they're all coalescing into this one perfect storm. And you're realizing that seems to if you're at least taking a few steps back and like looking at the wide, more like the bird's eye view, I guess would be a better way to put it. Then it's hard not to be under the impression that this is the pivot into the technocratic system. And so that is what I'm most concerned with at this moment, is that we're seeing all of these budget cuts and right, but in reality,
and then we get Bobby, this super likely fucking super duper blackmailed, but also framed, and I think genuinely, probably in a lot of ways, so as kind of anti-establishment in the medicine world. But I guess I'd be actually interested if maybe I should have paid attention when they were trying to confirmation hearings, but I'd be kind of interested in the ins and outs when it comes to his perspective on the medical. Like, does he have similar type perspectives when it comes to the healthcare as the billionaire Silicon Valley class tends to have? Right. I'd be curious, but he just has like a controversial take when it comes to things like vaccines as they're presented now. Yeah, because that could obviously leave openings for weird shit to happen. I don't know if you want to linger on this more, but I wanted to. I figured we could knock out the rest of these anti-war stuff. Yeah,
I wasn't even planning on talking about that shit.
Of course not.
Yeah,
but all right, I wanted to at least knock out the anti-war stuff because I wanted to let people know what's going on with this. I'll read this real quick. It's from Dave DeCamp, because yesterday we talked about what was going on with Hamas and Israel, kind of the ins and outs of the ceasefire stuff. So there's been news there because there was issues about getting the prisoners. Now I guess they actually did it. So here you go. Hamas handed over 4 bodies of dead Israeli hostages to the Red Cross early Thursday morning in exchange for the release of over 600 Palestinians from Israeli jails, which, by the way, they've been supposed to get the 600 Palestinians like multiple times now. Israel was due to release the Palestinians this past Saturday, but refused to over Hamas's handover ceremonies, which it said were humiliating. Hamas gave the 4 bodies to the Red Cross in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, without a public ceremony. According to Al Jazeera, a total of 642 Palestinians will be freed by Israel, including 115 who were serving life or long sentences. Of those 115, 97 will be exiled outside the Palestinian territories. Israel will release 445 Palestinians who were detained in Gaza during Israel's genocidal campaign in the Strip following the October 7th attack on southern Israel. The Israeli military has carried out mass arrests in Gaza and captured Palestinians, including medical workers arrested at hospitals, have faced brutal torture in prison. The Palestinian Prisoners Society said on Wednesday that another detainee from Gaza died in Israeli prison. Since October 7th, 2023, 60 Palestinians have died in Israeli jails, which I'd be curious. You know what? Let's do it right now. I'm going to look up right now how many prisoners have died in U.S. jails this year. Let's see. I wonder if I can get that in U.S. jails. U.S. jails this year. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a stat on this. How many prisoners were killed in the U.S. each year? Okay. Well, fuck. Never mind. That's pretty high. I was gonna compare it, but we're a way bigger country. We're in the thousands. I figured maybe it'd be interesting to see, but
that's fucking hilarious.
That's wild. Yeah.
Oh my god.
We are a lot. We are way bigger. I'm pretty sure what Gaza is like. What the size of? Probably like Rhode Island, if that. So all right, maybe I should look up how many people died in Rhode Island. As part of the exchange, Israel will also be releasing 46 women and children from its prisons. The releases are expected to happen throughout the morning. The first bus carrying dozens of Palestinians left Israel's Offer prison and arrived in the occupied West Bank of Ramallah. The release of the 4 bodies and the hundreds of Palestinians marks the last exchange under the first phase of the hostage and ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The future of the ceasefire, which Israel has continuously violated, remains uncertain as the first phase expires on Saturday, and no deal has been reached in the second phase. Israeli officials have said that they want to extend the first phase rather than enter the second phase, which would require a full Israeli withdrawal, which is why they don't want to do it. The U.S. has backed the idea of extending the first phase and has made it clear it's willing to support Israel if it restarts its genocidal war. So they're kind of forcing them into a corner where essentially, as Dave DeCamp has said multiple times, he's kind of implying it looks like they're trying to squeeze out all of their hostages and not get out. That way they can get their hostages and likely resume hostilities once they have their hostages. So, because now you've used up all your political chips. I have a feeling Hamas isn't going to be that fucking stupid. So we'll see. So now what will Israel do if they get to a point to where they're not giving some up? Are they going to continue the hostilities? I don't know. We'll find out. I did want to bookend on this real quick. I believe it was yesterday there was a story that came out of like multiple infants dying from like the cold. Apparently the significance of that is apparently they're still not letting mobile homes and construction equipment through. So that's part of the reasoning. These people don't have the stuff they need, which was part of the deal. This is also like why there was that one time Hamas just said, hey, we're not going to give you guys because you're breaking the ceasefire. And then shortly after they let some through and then they stopped again. So,
right.
I mean, you get an inch, they take a mile every single fucking time. So I don't know. I just gonna add that to it. But yeah, that's yeah.
I saw the video of the Biba's father like wailing about his family.
Yeah.
Like I didn't actually watch it until yesterday, but my
oh
God.
yeah, so he was the one. This was an old video, right? Because he
Yeah.
got out a while back.
Mhm.
And I remember because I said when I covered that like I vaguely recalled there was like a whole thing where him like crying and like him making appeal and like it was pretty fucked up. I remember seeing that when it came out. Yeah.
Yeah, that I watched that and then I pulled up the video that Netanyahu had put out like one day after the Bibas family sent the cease and desist letter to Netanyahu specifically, demanding that he stop publicly discussing the details of the deaths of the family. And then he appeared at AIPAC and reiterated his claim with no evidence whatsoever that, of course, Hamas murdered the family with their bare hands, you know. But it's it's definitely so clear to me that at this point, if you read through, like the Gray Zone just put out an awesome piece on the details of how there's zero evidence whatsoever, and there's really more evidence proving the fact that they were attempting to kind of be protected in the environment they seem to have been in when it was really just a Israeli bomb strike that murdered the hostages and the captors, right? Obviously. But so the evidence just completely shows that the Zionist manipulators at work, essentially.
They don't ever do that.
Yeah, and this was just political cannon fodder propaganda, specifically Zionist war propaganda, used as a tool to sabotage the ceasefire. I mean, and then, could you imagine? Right, but look at this fucking video though that Trump posted on Truth Social.
Oh, we played that, or I don't know, maybe it's already dead, or was it, or maybe I played on the more the one where the Gaza like weird AI video thing. Yeah,
yeah. Did you see that shit?
Yeah, I equated it to no, actually, right. We didn't watch it together because I equated it to the Jew video we watched. It was like that level of parody. Remember that, you know that like the Epstein files like whistleblower guy like I'm just working at I can't really fuck up my Jew accent, but he's like, oh, I'm just working in the office and I see these guys just deleting files. Oh wow, the Epstein files are gone.
For sure, dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
oy vey.
Exactly. It's so funny.
You're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, there was the same thing with AI, with the AI Trump thing. You're like, dude, are you kidding me? It's so over the top. It's retarded.
It was ridiculous. But
yeah, it's hard not to laugh. It's so retarded.
Oh, it was funny. But but still, it's just like imagine. Well, first of all,
Dr. Says the video is lit. I want to go to Gaza Beach. Yeah, I know. It does look pretty dope. You're like, this looks pretty sick. And you're like, oh, wait, this would be all propped up by genocide.
Yeah. Dude. Yep, like it's built back better in the blood of the Gaza people, right?
Because a lot of people, everyone keeps saying like dumb shit, like the lick spittles of Trump of like, we were gonna try something different. Like this isn't different. This is just the same. This is literally just. I mean, I guess it's different in that like we own it, but there's no difference. And even then, we don't own it. Like we're talking about taking it after. Which for one, why the fuck would they give it to us after? It makes no fucking sense. So,
and the only difference is just proudly putting your name on it.
Yeah.
Which, what the fuck is there?
Yeah.
To, you know what I
The
mean?
difference is, was it what do we call it? Ethnic cleansing or ethnic cleansing?
It's exactly what the fuck it is. A rebranded
Yeah.
ethnic cleansing. It's just so funny. But before we pivot entirely away from the military foreign policy, as far as, because I just wanted that last thing we had discussed as far as the Ukraine minerals deal you had brought up, and we talked about it privately briefly. I think it is important just to share this video of Trump and
Yep.
what he was saying
Mhm.
in regards to this, because the idea and the notion, of course, of
Biden has spent
of keeping American troops in Ukraine, I mean, that alone is worth acknowledging.
Biden has spent $350 billion without any chance of getting it back. Now we're going to be getting all of that money back plus a lot more. And we provided a great thing. I mean, we provided something very important. And we'll be working with Ukraine. And because we'll be taking that, we're going to be taking what we're entitled to take. Now, they spent $350 billion and Europe spent $100 billion. Now, does anybody really think that's fair? But then we find out a little while ago, not so long ago, a few months ago, I found out that the money they spent, they get back. But the money we spent, we don't get back. I said, well, we're going to get it back. And we'll be able to make a deal. And again, President Zelensky's coming to sign the deal. And it's a great thing. It's a great deal for Ukraine, too, because they get us over there and we're going to be working over there. We'll be on the land. And, you know, in that way, there's sort of automatic security because nobody's going to be messing around with our people when we're there. And so we'll be there in that way. But Europe will be watching it very closely. I know that UK has said and France has said
30,000.
that they volunteered to put so-called peacekeepers on the
30,000
site.
troops.
And I think that's a good thing.
That's crazy to me.
Something about putting 30. You say 30,000 troops of ours?
Yeah. Yeah. So check
Was it
this
to
out.
protect the minerals? Probably. I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. What they were saying was that it was basically to deter Putin from any further action whatsoever militarily.
Okay. So this is the European military chiefs. Okay.
Right, but
'Cause
still,
yeah.
what
I
he
mean,
was saying
still,
was, yeah, he had just mentioned that within the context of that video, as far as that the UK had offered to send troops, and I was just pulling up the fact that it's 30,000 they had offered to send, and yeah, it's interesting as well because it looks like Dmitry Peskov, right, the Kremlin spokesman, he reiterated Russia's opposition to the deployment of NATO troops to Ukraine. So it seems like there's a sort of workaround in play.
Yeah, I mean, these
you
are all
know?
these are. I mean, this is all like just negotiation stuff right here because this is just. I know it sounds
Yeah, but
almost
right
like
here-
30,000, but okay, well, okay, right. Let me see.
Our military is so run down at the present moment. And this is from head of the British Army.
Okay.
From a former head of the British Army. So basically, this is in response to the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying he was ready to send British troops to Ukraine, and basically this former British Army spokesman apparently said, or head of the British Army said, our military is so run down at the present moment numerically, and as far as capability and equipment is concerned, it would potentially be quite embarrassing, Donat said, if we were to deploy 10,000 troops each rotation for 6 months. That would effectively tie up 30,000 or 40,000 troops, and we just haven't got that number available.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is like
Okay.
being proposed as like negotiation tactics to.
Yeah, it's
and
basically
it's
the,
not, and I don't think any of this is really probably going to end up happening. I don't know. Maybe there'll be some. If actually the follow up too, which I don't know if it said in that article, but I think maybe it was one with you or not. I can't remember, but I definitely covered in the show. There was one of these days that I guess they were talking about as per peace deal, like essentially NATO or UN peacekeeping things. And I think it was implied that like, Trump said something along the lines of that, like, oh yeah, Putin's cool with that. And I think it was either he outright said it or was implying a UN as opposed to NATO. Because I guess, that'd be something, he'd be more friendly towards. And then, no, I believe it was yesterday, I want to say, that Putin came out and was like, no. Like, no, that's not, no, I'm not okay with that. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I know they issued a statement like absolutely not.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the final point is that you notice the the maximum pressure campaign against Iran, and how Iranian officials are essentially claiming that if the U.S. were sincere about their negotiations, why did they sanction us, right?
Yep.
And they even claimed that, of course, Tehran does not seek war, but will not yield to foreign pressure, and claiming that Trump is reimposing this maximum pressure campaign, and so that alone, very interesting.
It seems like the at least the forward-facing idea to the people is that Trump's trying to be strong and enforce people to the negotiation table, and the problem is a lot of people, you come at them with force, a lot of countries initially, and they're going, okay, well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Especially because I think it was like Venezuela. I was listening to sound this morning. I think it was Venezuela that like literally just gave back like with no pushback at all, like 6 prisoners or something. Oh yeah, here you go. And like, so they just did like a good diplomatic show of faith, and then we immediately were like, fuck you. And you're like, whoa. And then they're like, so from their perspective, like, dude, we just did like a good faith diplomatic action, and then you guys are just being shitty. So yeah. Hey, before you get into that, one more anti-war thing. Like, you mentioned it before, this one. I just thought this was interesting. I find it because assuming this goes somewhere, I find this to be interesting. Biden, Blinken, Austin referred to ICC over intentionally aiding Gaza genocide. I mean, most of us know how the right wing is when it comes to Israel. I mean, the left wing is too a little bit, but at least like the on the ground left wing, I feel like is far more typically anti-Israel. They're just really bad at explaining why. And then you have the right wing that's the on the ground are typically pro-Israel. But there is a good contingent of us out there that are not fans of Israel. So I'm interested to see how this works. Like if this does, let's say something does happen ICC wise, like, all the right wing anti-Israel people are going to be like fucking hyped. And it's going to be, I think it could be cool because it's like, what is the right wing pro-Israel people? Like they're kind of in a weak position. Like they can be like, well, I mean, we like Israel, but still like this, like, but yeah, fuck Biden, fuck Blinken, fuck Austin. So it is kind of this like, it's still a weak position to be coming from essentially. So let's read this real quick, just because I find this very interesting. The U.S.-based human rights NGO Democracy for the Arab World, by the way, this is from the Cradle, Arab World now has formally requested that the ICC, the International Criminal Court, launch a probe into former U.S. President Joe Biden and several of his officials for aiding and abetting Israel's war crime in the Gaza Strip. Dawn submitted a 172-page request that argues that Biden, former Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken ignored and facilitated Israeli crimes against Palestinians during the war on Gaza, which killed over 60,000 people, a majority of them women and children, which they did. I remember like in crazy situations where it was like blatant ceasefire or, violations or blatant war crimes. And like journalists would like literally go to him and they'd somehow hand wave it away. You're like, are you like, they would like not even, sometimes not even deny it. They would just be like, throw some sort of word salad and move on.
Like medical doctors and things as well, right? Like it was consistently, they were just massacring anyone in those areas. But
this case might face a political pushback, but it doesn't change the message it sends. Impunity isn't a given. If the rule of law is supposed to mean anything, it has to apply across the board, not just to our enemies, but to our friends and, yes, to ourselves. Prosecutor and Dawn board member Reed Brody told the Zateo media outlet, "We're at a turning point. The question is whether the ICC and international law will be more casualties buried under the rubble of Gaza," he added. The filing falls under what is known as an Article 15 communication, and it highlights how Biden's government continued to provide military and diplomatic support to Tel Aviv despite its knowledge that the aid was being used to commit war crimes. The U.S. support includes at least $17.9 billion in military intelligence and targeting assistance. By continuously and unconditionally providing political support and military support to Israel, while being fully aware of the specific crimes committed by Netanyahu, Gallant, and their subordinates, President Biden, Secretary Blinken, and Secretary Austin contributed intentionally to the commission of those crimes, while at least knowing the intention of the group to commit the Israeli crimes, if not aiming of furthering such criminal activity, Dawn's filing of the ICC reads. The ICC has international jurisdiction to prosecute genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in member states or if the UN Security Council refers the situation. Neither the U.S. nor Israel recognize the jurisdiction of the Hague-based court. U.S. President Donald Trump has imposed sanctions against the ICC, which include the blocking of property and assets, as well as the suspension of entry into the United States of ICC officials, employees, and agents, as well as their immediate family members. according to the president's executive order signed in early February. Which, by the way, that was like punitive because they because of the actions against Netanyahu, and also essentially saying that they were committing a genocide. Including in the list of targets of the U.S. sanctions is ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan. The ICC had issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in November 2024 over the genocide in Gaza, prompting immediate threats from Washington. So I thought that was particularly interesting. That maybe we might see these guys get prosecuted for something, or not, at least in there. I mean, it's nothing will come of it, obviously. But I mean, yeah. I mean, so where are you? All right.
That is interesting. Did you see Rogan talking to? I just saw the clip, but I saw a clip of Rogan talking to Woody Harrelson about a workaround from Fauci's pardon, and how basically the pardon could have essentially kind of set him up to be sued at the state level, and that then he wouldn't actually have the protection that he would have otherwise had prior to the pardon. Which I found that as an interesting, interpretation of what could potentially happen, because you're going to have like a few more. Now the outrage, I'm not sure is as, it's clearly not as ratcheted up as far as like, any sort of, Fauci's not really in the news cycle right now. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, right? So there's not really a high demand in this moment. But you're going to see, a few more casualties in the pendulum swing as far as like political victories are concerned, and I think just for the partisan base. And so just to view, which they already do, as far as it seems like you have like a very solid majority who are under this misconception that they're getting everything they voted for just because of the outrage factor involved with their political opponents, right? Like, it's kind of hilarious, but that tends to be the case where you see, just people kind of taking victory laps and glorifying themselves in these moments when it's just utter, non-consequential in regard to the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean?
On the flip side, though, as been brought up by a lot of people, there's seems to be a legal possibility. This means they can't plead the fifth if they get called to testify.
What I was saying.
So it's wild.
That's literally my point with bringing up. Yeah, that's what Rogan's point was that because of the pardon, he wouldn't have the protections that he prior to the pardon would have had, right? And otherwise, in regard to that process, I just forgot the terminology. You know what I mean? I was just off the cuff trying to remember because I had watched it recently, but yeah, it was still something I thought kind of worthwhile to point out, because you do see that happen, but it would be strange. But still, I feel like, RFK Jr. at least is going to accomplish a few different things. You know what I mean? As much as I believe him to be compromised, I think he's potentially, he could potentially actually be a good faith actor in a few different ways, and also I think
the problem I bring up very much we know he's coloring within certain lines. It's just a matter of whose lines those are, and I don't know where those lines are. So
exactly.
Which is kind of why I implied earlier this guy's clearly a compromised individual. And a lot of people go, fucking this, but he's not on the Israel commission or something, or he's not the minister of Israel or whatever, which I guess that's just president. But I mean,
they're all hanging out with Shmuley,
but it's still there's it's pretty easy. That's like there's some of these shady figures would also have reasons for want X, Y, and Z thing, whatever that may end up being. Kind of like as we've implied this like a fourth industrial revolution stuff. You don't think there's some like entrenched interest in there that also might be a little friendly to the old Star of David? Like, I mean,
oh god,
I sure as fuck do. Like hell, we just showed fucking what we were just talking about Ellison. At the beginning, we were talking about Elon.
You should bring up that.
These are all Israel
cocksuckers.
Yeah,
you should bring up that PragerU thread real quick. Do you have it ready?
Yeah, I have it. Let me. I'll bring it up.
And then we'll get into a little Epstein. That way we can actually talk about Epstein on the fucking Epstein files release day, apparently. which
Well,
had
this
the
is from
release
our.
date for the Epstein files that aren't going to expose the actual Zionist connections to Mossad.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
we'll see
funny.
how that goes. We have this from Boltzmann Booty. He says, correction, our new simultaneous FBI/ATF director's girlfriend works for an Israeli intelligence front. All
What?
right, let's explain.
No.
Yeah, no, never. All right, let's explain this a little bit. We obviously Kash Patel. A lot of people. If you guys haven't
Did you see-
heard about this,
Was it Ken that posted his eyes, Patel's eyes,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was his something, his gaze that fucking like I
Yeah,
can't
right here,
remember
see?
the way that he.
I'm
put-
sure he
yeah,
seduced her with the intensity of his gaze. Much irony in the notion this guy is going to investigate honeypot operations, which is like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
this
Such
guy's
a
going to investigate honeypot operations
Uh-huh.
carried out by
at those
Israel. Like, yeah. So
Oh,
let's
man.
get this. Here's our buddy Boltzmann Booty says our new FBI's director's girlfriend works for an Israeli intelligence front. This is Alexis Wilkins. This is her girlfriend. You can see here, PragerU contributor, country artist. I don't really know much about her. I mean, she's pretty damn cute. And then there's Prager. Here's another tweet from Booty. He said, PragerU CEO Marissa Straight is IDF intelligence. When Dennis Prager visited Israel, he was recruited to go to the USSR and covertly pass info to and from Jewish dissidents. PragerU's first video was a history of Israel funded by Adam Milstein, who also funds Hasbara fellowships.
No way.
Yes. So that's
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So here we go. I mean, there's a bunch here that we could
And
probably.
we're
go down. I
taking
don't know
down
if
the
we'll
deep
read onto
state.
this. Yeah.
This is so ridiculous.
Yeah, here's PragerU was actually explicitly funded as a Hasbara operation, and Marissa Straight was tapped to be the CEO from the start, leaving her previous job as director of operations at a Hasbara/lobbying firm, the Israeli American Council. Which if a lot of people don't understand that Hasbara, I think that's like what, like they're essentially where they essentially bull in from like what the diaspora is, the idea of where they pull that money in, and that's where like the money flows into Israel from out, like because they always encourage like the diaspora to donate, and so that's why you end up with this like loyalty even if you aren't in Israel, and then you have these, you have a lot of these big people, like these big. I mean, you always see those videos of the guys who are like, look at this guy in this company, Jew. It's like, but those guys at those levels, they also were inundated from a young age, likely growing up as Jews, to have this sort of ingrained loyalty to Israel. So when they get rich and powerful, it makes sense that then they go, oh, well, I'm going to, help out here and there, donate this, that, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's how they get all their money. So it's kind of this public-private thing because it's partially how the whole settlement operation, the Zionist project, is funded. I mean, obviously it's partially government thing, and this is how some, like, you get some people like in anarcho-capitalists and stuff that will try to find retarded arguments to justify Israel because they're like, well, it's technically, a lot of this comes from this money that comes from this private, blah, 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 blah. But you're like, but dude, this is a public-private. Like, this isn't an actual private thing. If anything, it kind of makes it more devious because then you end up with weird situations like this where you have some broad who's literally in a financing firm for Israel, essentially, and now is now working for PragerU.
That's how they blur the lines.
Yes.
And that's where you get the plausible deniability where they can at least make the claim, and kind of wiggle their way out of certain situations and also, embed themselves into other scenarios where they wouldn't right there. Otherwise there would be a very much some sort of, it would be far more obvious as far as the infiltration if there wasn't so much of this kind of compartmentalization in regard to the ops, but it seems sloppy because it's really not that sophisticated in the end. But it does take someone with some sort of like discipline within the context of the official narratives to take the time necessary, right, to critically assess these connections. But that's really the pattern recognition that we consistently practice. So once again,
RFK, such good friends with Epstein that he had free use of his Manhattan offices. Kash Patel, her girlfriend works in an Israeli intelligence front. Tom Homan, see screenshots and says Ian's so fucking stupid. I don't know about that one. Tom Homan, defend the border and save lives. Join us on a fascinating Holy Land tour, visiting many of the Judeo-Christian biblical sites in Jerusalem, Galilee, Jordan River, Masada, the Dead Sea, and much more. So he did the whole castrate myself before Israel, cry at the wall, fucking, gay ass little tour they all do.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know what to the extent this really means anything, but it shows he's a big old Israel sucker. I guess Ron Wexler's there as well. This tour is also a fact-finding expedition to learn why border walls, barriers, and fences work to secure national sovereignty and save lives. You will participate in discussion and evaluations of the American-Middle East relations and the post-Afghanistan U.S. foreign affairs in the region. What worked for Israel worked for America. So they're selling this as we have our border guy, our border czar going over there, and he's learning how to control the border like Israel does. We should just treat the Mexicans like Palestinians. I think we should treat the Canadians like Palestinians. I'm okay. I'm on board with that.
Our police chiefs are like trained by Mossad agents anyway, so it's like I really am not surprised at all that you have so much affiliation with the Israeli project, right? The Greater Israel Project. I mean, how many of these intel officers and operatives, right, are on a kibbutz in Israel fighting on the front lines with the Mossad, just massacring Palestinians like before they come over and like stage some sort of Gladio domestic op in all these foreign countries. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that really what we should probably talk about is at least the Epstein files, because they're supposed to be released today at like 9. So within 45 minutes, I think 9 my time.
Guys, we're getting truth in fucking 90
Eastern.
minutes or whatever. Did you say 90 minutes? Is that what you just said? Or am I retarded?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be at 9 a.m.
Oh, 9 a.m. your time.
Yeah, so like 45 minutes, honestly.
Yeah, okay,
Shouldn't
45
be
minutes. I'm retarded. Why did I say 90 minutes? Sorry, I'm like also kind of looking at these, seeing if there's anything interesting
Dude,
to pull
you're good,
from
brother.
while we're talking. Because, here's trying to see if there's anything else that stands out. No, okay, whatever. I mean, if you guys want to read it, there's definitely, you could flesh out more on that. He's just more, it's kind of just booty, just going unhinged, just kind of on all these different people and how cucked they are in Israel. He's right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I follow him entirely when he goes down the Ian, because I know Booty's on this like Ian Carroll, some sort of op, which I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't fucking know.
I honestly, I've been very skeptical of that guy from the moment he came onto the
he
alternative
just blew
media
up big. So I get it. I
Yeah.
understand the knee jerk, like what the fuck is up with this dude? Because it is like this
His
dude just came
takes
out of
are
nowhere.
just-
But
it just feels like, how could you come away with this as your conclusion?
and it is gay because it is like he
Every
very much
fucking
was
time.
initially when he first came on the scene really, really good. And to be fair, I don't follow his stuff enough to really have a fully fleshed out. But then I do always will see these things where it's like, well, let me tell you why this is 5D chess for like maybe this is actually really cool. And you're like, why? Like, why are we going to such incredible levels to try to cope for? I mean, like you'd be better off just kind of being like, I don't know, just pointing out where you're excited about things where you're not. I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird that the idea that we're fucking, I don't know, the bending over backwards, fucking find ways to justify everything. It seems to be like the idea is to be like a Trump administration cheerleader is a vibe I've been getting. And even when I don't know, I guess
But
I really don't
seem
feel
to
right,
be able-
kind of bloviating about this because I don't watch enough of his stuff. So maybe I'm missing the
doesn't
times where he talks
question-
mad shit. I don't fucking
Yeah.
know. I mean, maybe it's
Well-
the stuff that really hits numbers is the stuff that really hits because he's kind of good with the MAGA Maha base. So it would make sense the stuff that goes viral is going to be more, it's going to be less critical of Trump. So maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, he's been
Right.
pretty good on a lot of stuff. So I really have a hard time. I would need something.
telling you right now,
I don't
man,
really
that's
like
what a-
these. I
that's
don't
what a
like
limited
the
hangout does, brother,
I know.
you
I
know?
agree. But I also,
Yeah.
at the same time, I
I
haven't
feel
seen
it
anything.
in my bones,
I feel it in
man.
my bones too, but at the same time, I need something, like
Yeah, I
something,
get it.
something of some substance. I haven't seen anything, and I've had guys that like I'm friendly with that are like going on about this, and I'll go, hey, do you have something? And because I'm genuinely interested, I've gone on the show multiple times where we go, hey, is so and so a Fed, and we've covered threads on it. And there's people I'm like, I think maybe they are. It's a possibility. Like Ben's, I was like, I would not be surprised, but I still don't know. Ian, I haven't even found anything other than like he kind of copes for Trump sometimes, and he came on the scene real hot and fucking real big. So aside from that, it's like, yeah, those are both like good little nodes, data points to be concerned about, but they're nothing more than data points to me. I mean, at this point, I need something more before I go, he's probably fucking, yeah. See, Tyler saying Ian's bend over for Dan B's comments on Tim Pool is something. Although even then, like, I heard his cope there.
Fucking guy can't mention
Yeah.
Palantir to save his
Yeah.
fucking life. I mean, my
Yeah.
God, like you do all this research. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, that's all I'm saying. You're like you're
Although we
parroting
say
all
that,
this
though,
research from.
we say that though. There's so many different rabbit holes that other people haven't gone down that we've gone down or whatever, and you assume. I mean, we forget how deep some of this knowledge is. So it's not surprising there might be some people that like you're like, how would you not fucking have gone down that rabbit hole? It's like, well, maybe they just haven't dug down that rabbit hole yet. And you think it's obvious, but it's like, well, it's obvious because you've dug into it, and he hasn't. He's probably dug into stuff we haven't. I mean, he's pretty. I don't know. I'm not. Far be it for me to sit here and defend Ian Carroll. I don't really pay attention to his content. Every now and then he'll have some stuff, and I'll maybe watch like short videos I see on my timeline. I don't really watch his shit. I just want some. For those out there, if you find something, send it to me. I would be glad. I'd be happy to cover in the show. If I find something of substance that's like this dude's a Fed, I will fucking cover in the show, and I'll give you my opinion. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe he is a Fed. And so like so far, it's like I don't even know if I'd say I lean towards him being a Fed. I'm completely probably 50-50 on him. Maybe 49-51. I don't know.
This dude glows like hell. It just his takes, brother, alone, like the way he presents the information, you know, that's my only issue. So it's like I'm not coming with evidence either. I have no receipts, but you know when somebody just slaps you in the face with the, you know, just like the approach psychologically.
I mean, you also could think he's made friends with a lot of these people. So like he's literally like I remember watching something he did with Nicole Shanahan, and they clearly were super friendly, and he's talked about doing a bunch of stuff with her and blah 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 blah. Like so it's like I think it's also that he's just like getting tied up. So I think he kind of fell in love with RFK, and he's like really clearly about the Maha stuff, the hell stuff. So I do think there is kind of a slight, you know, cope that's going on. But I don't know to what extent it's intentional or if it's just this like unintentional because he's wrapped up in the cult of personality of like Nicole Shanahan and RFK, because he does seem to be close with them. So I don't know. I mean, I hope he's legit because he seems like a good voice, and I don't know, maybe he can stop being a little bit more skeptical. I can't stand it either, but I mean, whatever. It seems people like it. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess Dr. was saying his parents are docs too, so I mean maybe there's something there. I don't fucking know.
I'll see if I can find anything.
Yeah, if you find anything, I mean, it's not like I'd be blown away. I'd be like, no fucking way. I'd be like,
right,
makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
Well, all I have left.
By the way,
Tanya
Tanya Yakey hit me up after the Jeffrey McDonald episode.
Oh hell yeah!
And just like was like, I'm listening to your 4-hour podcast. And she's like, I'm absolutely loving the Gunderson portion, and she said it's very much reminding me of I can't remember the exact word she used, but I don't, you know, not like I want to expose that anyway. But still, it was to the effect of it reminded her of kind of, you know, the persona that was Gunderson, but also kind of the moral values he tended to align himself with in her mind psychologically, right? How she viewed him based on, you know, relationship with him throughout, as far as how they kind of formed that relationship. And then I think she had some very in-depth conversations with him to quite a deep extent. Yeah. And I know I listened to her at one point a long time ago. I'm pretty sure I listened to her talking to Gunderson.
Yeah, there's some Gunderson. I feel like I've tried to track it down before, and I couldn't, because I think she said she actually did. I want to say she actually might have done multiple, and I think she said one of them was with Ramona McDonald, which is shit. Like, so if you can find that, if anyone finds so that, amazing. Send it to me, because I've been wanting. She has been the character I've wanted to, after Tanya, which I accomplished Ramona. That. She's the person that I've wanted to cover or interview probably the most, because she's the one who has the most like damning info in relation to the Iki stuff. So like, and this was all stuff that I believe she kind of was semi-anonymous initially around the time. I think there was like kind of a period of time she was sort of public and then kind of backed off. She even changed her name. That's because Ramona McDonald's not actually her name. So hey, on the off chance Ramona, you're out there, hit me up. I mean, there's people who think. I know Charles Key. I listened to some interview recently from his. He was talking about he thinks there was a possibility maybe she's dead at this point. I don't know. She was, as of like a year or so ago, with that CNN article, she was reached out to by them. So she gave some slightly new information. It was kind of like an updated version of stuff she'd said before. It was a little bit more It was more in depth slightly.
Yeah.
She gave the information about him not bringing his gun, which wasn't in previous iterations when he was supposed to go meet some couple
Interesting.
glowies. So
Well,
yeah, anyways,
Tanya's
she would
the
be someone I'd love
nicest
to interview.
person
So, but that interview is supposedly out there. I think with the two of them and Gunnarsson, that would be a piece of
so
history. That'd be
sweet to
fun to
find.
find. Yeah. But
All I
real quick
know is
before
every
I
time-
just want to say before we move on to the next thing, the only other thing I really have that I kind of would really like to cover. I mean, I have some stuff you guys out there tagged me in, and I'm sorry, probably not going to get to that today, but we'll be back again tomorrow. I know I'm sorry, screwed up rebellion. I said we'd cover it, but. As I said earlier, Austin kind of took the lead in this episode, so I'm letting him.
Hey man,
We're gonna
every
pass on to.
topic I was going to discuss, we haven't even fucking talked about.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know what I
But
mean?
I did have a Gladio
The
one I
way
would
of
like
the
to
world.
cover by Jer, but I think we should get you to cover. We should actually cover one. Of the
We
things
got
you
to
wanna
talk
cover.
about Epstein for a
Yes,
moment.
we gotta.
But the last thing I
And we
want to
gotta
say,
change the title
is
because we're
just-
probably not going to talk about left to work or Fawcett Island.
dude, fuck. Oh man, but the main reason I just wanted to say Tanya's like the nicest person ever, and
She's great, yeah.
in regard to Ramona McDonald, I'll never forget reading through that Terry Yakey letter to Ramona, dear Ramona. Like I cried like a baby. Doesn't take much, but that was just like emotionally, it was just resonating as far as it resonated with me, but it was just moving, extraordinarily moving, as far as just witnessing the moral values that I think Terry seemed to possess. You know what I mean? That alone broke my fucking heart. You know what I'm saying? His just like feeling of betrayal that came across in the context of that letter. I'll never fucking forget, But anyway, did you have anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Before we
As I told you, the only other thing I'd like to get to, there's a couple things that were tagged, and you can keep tagging us and stuff because we'll cover it probably tomorrow. I promise you, there's one thing from Doctori 420 that I want to cover, and there's two that from a screwed up Texas. We will cover those tomorrow, assuming I'm there. But there is one that's a Gladio thing that I wanted to cover, but I thought we'd find interesting because I am going on William Ramsey's show tonight to talk about the Gladio. Let's get into the Epstein shit, dude. I'm super excited. We're finally going to shed off the yoke that is Israel. I think that's where we're going with this, right?
Oh man, I don't know, Jose. I think that's a little too optimistic, brother. Oh man. So this was when it first, bombshell dropped yesterday. Everybody freaked out.
Isn't
We're
she
getting
like
the
60?
Epstein files. It seems like it, yeah.
I think I gotta say,
she moves around and talks, you can tell her age a little bit
she's
more.
a dime piece for an old lady. I'll give her that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's kind of interesting though because it was Pam Bondi in 2018 that Trump was talking to after the Parkland shooting, talking about Cruz and how they were going to implement this new gun grabbing legislation. I found very interesting. But anyway, now she's the Attorney General. Yeah. So here we go.
A lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk, when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
Well, they're on my desk.
Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims, 200. So we have over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see hopefully tomorrow is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick.
I know
what that
we already
man
have
did.
the flight.
Okay,
logs.
well, we'll
along
look
with
for
his
that.
co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for
Can
sure.
you back it up like 20 seconds?
Yeah,
I want to because I talked and I missed exactly what she said. Because I want to get what did she say exactly? She said flight logs. What else?
Think client list, maybe. I don't know. Hold on.
Devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see hopefully tomorrow is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay. Well,
Flight
along
logs, a lot
with
of
his
names, a lot of
co-defendant.
information.
absolutely. And he had
His
help.
shit.
That's for
He
sure.
sure did.
We ain't getting shit, guys. We ain't getting shit.
it
We
ain't
ain't getting
happening.
shit. Not fucking shit, guys. The flight logs were already released. The black book was already released on Gawker by fucking Nick Bryant, who we've had on the show.
Yep.
Great guy.
Right here.
So yeah, and that's ironically that's Peter Thiel. Is the one who really went to town to try to fucking was nuked by Peter Thiel. Yep.
It's so hilarious.
Yeah, dude. Man.
Let's see. Oh yeah, another one. Bonus one, a 1998 Trilateral Commission membership list, which includes the proud member Jeffrey Epstein.
If he was a Trilateral Commission member.
That's so fucking
yeah,
crazy.
dude, we're getting truth there from this motherfucker on the Trilateral Commission, which, by the way, if we don't know that's like Council Foreign Relation level spooky. Like,
absolutely.
It's like, yeah, that's, I mean,
that is, the PNAC crowd, right?
It's like your people trying to pull strings of the world.
But don't worry, because Dershowitz, he barely even fucking knows who Epstein is now. It's so funny.
No, he was not a member of any intelligence agencies. I'm quite sure of that. And he was not a hedge fund guy. In fact, once
Is this old?
You never want to tell humorous stories about Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm not
He once
sure, to
said-
be honest, because it popped up yesterday. It was making the rounds.
I mean, even looking at Weinstein's, because I feel like Weinstein today would have been probably like, or his name's
Right.
Weinstein, right? Over there, I forget what something.
Yeah,
Stein.
yeah, this guy.
Yeah, so I mean, he kind of looked like he almost looked like he was agreeing.
I remember
his but I don't know, maybe it was like a shock to look. I don't know.
brother is Brett, right? That Evergreen College professor who was like targeted during the woke like culture craze. Yeah.
Oh no, they said I couldn't go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the blacks said don't work.
paper for defamation. And I said, why did they call you a pedophile? He said, no, they called me a hedge fund guy. He was very upset at being called a hedge fund guy. I don't know what his financial business was, but I can be relatively certain he was
Actually,
not
Weinstein looks
an
upset,
asset
like he's getting ready to be like,
Can I just
tear
ask
him out.
Why, Alan Dershowitz, can I just ask why
Yeah, he's breaking it
you're
right
so
now.
certain about this? Because it does seem to have been an intelligence gathering operation of some kind, or a compromat situation, or a blackmail situation, something like that.
Kind of
surely.
surprised Douglas Murray's saying that.
It's
honestly.
possible, but I never saw any evidence of that. He was a guy from Brooklyn, grew up in Coney Island. He was very curious. He wasn't as smart as he thought he was. He didn't know as
Common
much
Brooklyn
about
story.
science as he thought he did. But I can tell you that people like Steven Pinker and people like Stephen Gould and people like the president of Harvard thought he asked good questions during the seminars that we all attended. Those seminars, I never attended a seminar after I
Why the fuck do we
represented
care?
him. My relationship did terminate. I continued to take his phone calls after that. Look, I don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is. He was very, very. I didn't even want to meet him initially. Look, I want
Oh,
everything out.
poor
I want
Dershowitz, dude.
all the theories out there, all the documents. Let the public decide. There are people who
Video as
don't
well.
want things. They have things to
Video.
hide. But people like me who have nothing to hide, who are not in any way embarrassed about any of these revelations, because we know
Oh,
we did nothing
Dersh.
wrong. We're the ones who want all these
You've been
papers out, all
named.
these documents out, and I'm hoping the judge will now release everything, every single document.
Do you remember which
Wow.
Weinstein brother? I believe it was one of the Weinstein brothers that released that what was like a UN document or made that UN document he was commissioned to make or something about like essentially Malthusian type stuff like depopulation. I believe it was one of the two of them. Although I will say he is generally pretty good. So whether that's because he's a limb or whether that's because he's like placed there, I don't know. Either way, he did look like he was getting ready to tear into him because he's like, you could just see he's like chomping the bit to be like,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I mean, even Douglas Murray of all people, fucking, yeah, he fucking, even Douglas Murray was like, I think this is a, this is a fucking. If you got Douglas Murray saying that, that's something else. All right, do you want to try to knock out some
this
North
lady?
Fox? I guess. What about her?
Juliet Bryant, who was one of Epstein's victims at Zorro Ranch, and she's the one who claimed that she woke up paralyzed, right, on a medical room table, basically, and that they had really been like operating using these like transhumanist techniques on her, and that they had removed some of her eggs allegedly.
Oof.
And so yeah, she
I mean,
like
it would make sense they would do that. So
And
I mean,
he
given the
apparently
money
would
coming through
grant
here,
that.
they may have. I mean, I don't know where we're at with artificial womb, but I mean, even like a surrogacy or something like I don't. It would totally make sense for them just to take eggs from people if they were able to. So that would for
Exactly,
what they
'cause
were doing here.
Yeah, because I think that makes more sense with the stable of women that he was
Yeah.
attempting to impregnate at all times.
Yeah, because then you only need all you need. It's a lot easier to ask to get eggs from someone or something.
Mhm.
Although it sounds like you didn't ask, but either
Right.
way. But my point is a lot.
Not at all.
Either I guess whether you ask or not, that's an easier ask. I guess whether you actually ask or not to get eggs than to do.
Oh, for sure.
Be like, oh, I'm going to impregnate you or whatever. You're
Uh-huh.
like that's. So and
Yeah,
I wouldn't
and by
be
the way-
surprised if these weirdos have fucking artificial wombs or some shit already. So like
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, I mean I would be at least bit surprised.
Maria Farmer said the way that they treated her was like she was, less than human in the context of the Jewish supremacy that they practiced, which apparently they were, according to Maria Farmer, they would go to these, elite, exclusive Jewish, gatherings, and Ghislaine herself tells Maria Farmer, shows her like this ancient historical, museum like item that was from the like this I forget which museum in the UK, but it was like this very much like an item that was from historical context that should be kept in a museum. But according to Maria Farmer, what Ghislaine Maxwell told her is she showed her this item, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
Dude, we got somebody from Bohemia.
For real?
That's fucking cool. Go check.
That
Go
is
take some pictures
badass.
of Bohemian Grove for us, dude.
Yeah, for real, bud.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I just found it interesting that she was essentially bragging about how her father, Robert Maxwell, had just gone into the British Arts Museum and stolen this very, valuable item. He just took it for himself, and no one asked any questions, and there were no consequences. And her basically what she was attempting to, I think, kind of like she was really seemingly kind of like bragging and boasting about how untouchable they truly are. You know what I'm saying? And so I found that kind of interesting in regard to just how it was like some ancient Peruvian artifact. That was what it was.
Mhm.
And it was 100% kept in like the British Arts Museum. I can't remember the name of which museum, but still, that it was kept in one of Epstein's properties. And so yeah, it was kind of strange that she showed her that, and then in that context, you know what I mean? Like, look how powerful we truly are. But yeah. Anyway, this lady, she apparently was the one who was who woke up on this operating table
Did I
essentially.
just burp
at
on
Zorro
mute?
Ranch.
You didn't hear me burp, did you?
No, I didn't hear you.
Okay, cool. I was like, I looked and I saw it was unmuted, but I was like, I can't remember if I just clicked it or not. I was like, shit, I always let out a big old burp.
I didn't
before
hear
everybody-
Oh, that's
I
too
muted
funny.
it though, so we're good. Sorry.
The underlying music here is a little annoying, but it's still worth watching.
The kind of cloning DNA part that he was obviously transhumanism that he was interested in. Did that come up anywhere? Did you see any signs?
What does this say? Convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein reportedly told scientists he wanted to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating 20 women at a time at his New Mexico Zorro Ranch, according to the Times. The idea may be connected to Epstein's interest in transhumanism, which of course is just modern eugenics, the belief that the human brain and body can and should be artificially enhanced using modern science and technology. Boom, there you go. Brain implants, microchips, EMF, all of that shit affects our consider how we have electrical synapses running through our bodies at an incredible rate, and to tap into that using electromagnetic frequencies is a fucking reality. Right? There's legitimate documents that prove that this is a credible technique utilized in the field, right? And so that alone worth being aware of. And then of course Epstein reportedly discussed the New Mexico baby ranch idea with various scientists. But there's plenty of evidence. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but I guess it's, I don't know, corroborating
I mean, it's because also be older.
physical
too, or something,
evidence. Yeah.
And obviously, there's scientists.
I'm just
as you
going to put it
say.
out there right now. I woke up in a laboratory there one night.
Wow.
These are the things I haven't wanted to talk about because it's frightening.
This woman's strange. I mean, it would be incredible. I can't even imagine the lifestyle she's endured, but still,
yeah.
it's like she. I think she went on Patrick David a while back or something. I don't remember.
Are you
who.
thinking of you're not thinking of Anneka Lucas instead, are you?
That might have been who it was.
Belgian,
Yeah,
she's the Belgium. She claims
she's
to be
the
part of the
Belgian girl.
Dutroux
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
But isn't there kind of like a
well, not Dutroux, but the Nihul,
right,
you
right,
know,
right.
Not specifically Dutroux. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Colloquially
But
speaking, the Dutroux stuff.
it is strange though, the way they come off, just as far as like their personal presentation. You know,
Yeah, which I mean, it makes
but
sense.
of
As we've
course,
talked
it's
many
like,
times, like, well, how do
yeah.
victims, tend to present? They're going to be weirdos. I mean, hell,
Yeah,
even
you
X1,
would
you
think
look at the
so.
videos of her, she's a fucking weirdo. I mean, but it makes
Fucking
sense.
weird,
She
yeah.
went through a lot of shit, a lot of trauma. It's going to make it weird.
100%, man.
Weird people, weird stuff. It's like with the hurt people, weird people,
Yeah.
weird people.
No, I mean, no doubt. So it does make sense, but it's always
Yeah.
interesting, and it strikes me instantly when I'm watching some of these victims' accounts. I always appreciate it when it feels more reliable and less, but I can't imagine, spending, because it's not like she spent the vast majority of her life after her abuse attempting to run with this narrative in the public spotlight for any sort of personal financial gain. I haven't found that to be the case with her specifically, but so I don't think that really applies here. But you always have to be aware of that as a factor.
But there were
involved.
scientists there, and I woke up one night in a laboratory, paralyzed and naked on a table. I would like to be lie detected on this. There are other weird things that I saw. We'll talk about more later. But these people were doing something else, and they don't want anyone knowing about it. And I came back from there, I was not okay. I had severe panic attacks. I was hospitalized 10 times with panic attacks. And I'd been a very, very healthy, happy girl before I was taken there. They did something to me, and I want to know what they did. And that's why I won't stop until I know.
Yeah.
It came off. It was intense.
Yeah,
oddly.
she's intense for sure.
Yeah.
But
All right, I
man,
don't know if you saw the
probably
private
would've
chat,
taken-
but I wanted to see if I could just knock out this Gladio one, and then I figured I'd just leave you and let you. I got a jet out of here, and then
Oh,
we can.
man.
And then I'll let you knock out the other ones you got. What do you got? A bunch of other videos on this? Like,
Oh no, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I
okay.
honestly, I only really had like one more video on it anyway.
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, there was one on snuff films too that William had posted from
Mm.
William F. Buckley Jr., who, by the way, it was like directly. He was like the
Yeah.
godfather of Howard Hunt's children, dude. Howard Hunt brought him into the CIA as an asset in Mexico, as at the CIA station in Mexico, I believe. And yeah, it's fucking nuts going through what St. John Hunt, Howard Hunt's son, says about William F. Buckley Jr. And apparently, after the arrests happened and Dorothy Hunt was killed in the plane crash, dude, William F. Buckley goes to Howard Hunt's property and picks up his children. Like that's how connected and closely related they were. But anyway, he did this whole. He apparently, of course, he's a member of Skull and Bones and the Knights of Malta, as William Ramsey points out here. But he talks about Dershowitz and his opinion on snuff films as well, which I found very interesting. But we don't have to really play it. I was just pulling
Oh,
it
you're
up.
good.
You know,
All right, let's. I just want to knock
I
out
gotta
this
take a
Glad.
piss anyway.
Okay.
I don't know
I'll
how
just get
long
s-
I'm gonna be able to go really anyway,
Okay,
because
that's cool.
my dad's coming and shit today.
Okay,
So
well we can always just change the title if we don't. If I just figured that way you could at least not have to fuck with the title. You could at least maybe knock out the North Fox Island. But I got honestly I gotta take the Browns to the Super Bowl.
oh my
So,
god.
All right, I'm gonna knock out this Gladio one. If you need to go run to the bathroom, I'll just start it without you. I just kind of want to go over this with you guys. I thought this was particularly interesting. I read this at halftime at one of my kiddos' soccer games recently. So I want to share this with you guys. It says he still hasn't been questioned, but Roger Bagier got media attention in Belgium last week, giving an interview to the RTBF. Here are some translated excerpts and an overview on Roger Bagier. Which we're not going to go into that thread. We're just going to follow along this one. Maybe we'll come back because there's actually a few interesting Robert Bagier threads we could do, but I felt like this one was probably the best one for now. On his arrest in search of his house in Thailand. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy who is a former gendarmerie or gendarme, or I don't know what the technical term, if you're referring to him individual, gendarme, I don't know, whatever. The military police of Belgium, essentially. This is one of the guys who, around the time of the Brabant killings, the Dutroux affair, like those sorts of things, he left. And he was buddies with Johnny Bahouche, or was it Donnie? I forget, whatever, Bahouche. So that's who this guy is. So he ties into all this stuff, and they find him later in Thailand. He ends up getting arrested in Thailand way later. This was like recently. This was like, I think this is like new when this was posted. So like a couple of years ago, this guy got arrested in Thailand. So on his arrest in search of his house in Thailand, Bagier said he didn't expect it has been this hard. It has been hard for him and his. Okay, that's weird. I don't know what the fuck that means. I think he's saying it didn't expect it to be this hard for him and his family. He's currently free and is hoping to leave quickly. He also talks about the 1985 TV show based on the Brabant killings. He says it is nonsense, mixing all these different criminal cases up. The writers must have misread books. While I can't speak the accuracy of the TV show, the Brabant case is notorious for... One second, while I remember this, retweet this for you guys. Here we go. Is notorious for being linked with other criminal stories from the 80s in Belgium. Bagier was personally involved in some of them, hence why his name is recurrent in the Brabant case, like Madani Bahouche. Here's the link. We actually covered this thread already, so this kind of ties into it, sort of. This is an ex-Belgian gendarmerie major. We covered this thread a while back, so we went in through all that. This was kind of, looking back, kind of the stuff he knew and thought. But Bagier then mentions forums and social media as a place where people use his name in relation to the Brabant killings. He says he tried explaining things to people, but they don't trust him because most people figure he's in with the gendarmes in the cover-up. I agree with him, is what this guy says. I do too. Bagier used to post on a Brabant killing French-speaking forum some years ago, and until his arrest on a Facebook group based on the same forum, he posted on there with a dead relative's account. Just plain weird, and didn't reveal himself until people called him out on it. This was just months ago. Keep in mind, this was written back in 2023, so a couple of years ago. Bagier has been actively trying to spin the narrative, and he's keen on excluding himself from any case that may link him to the Brabant killings, blaming his colleague Bahouche for all that stuff. And there's Bahouche again with his signature glasses he seems to always have. One of the most suspect things Bagier is involved in regards to the Brabant killings is photographs he took in November 1985 of the same Dalhays in Alost the killers would attack. He claims he was spying on a nearby villa paid by a jealous spouse in an adultery investigation. Going back to Bahouche, Bagier, I don't know why I keep fucking that up. All right, says that he never shared his fascist ideology and associations, claims to have distanced himself in 1984 by forcing him to leave the detective agency, ARI. Because, Bahouche was a WMP guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the relationship will never be completely broken since they share a criminal past. And also, Bahouche was a gendarme, if you guys didn't catch up on that. So he was a gendarme who was also working for or part of WMP, Westland New Post, which was that paramilitary organization that carried out the Brabant killings and was getting covered for by the gendarmerie, who fucking Bagier and Bahouche also worked for at that time. So this guy is in some like right-wing-ish, sort of fascist, Nazi-ish sort of paramilitary organization while essentially being a military cop. ARI, Agence de Recherche et de l'Information, is a private detective agency Bagier and Bahouche will set up in 1983. So Bagier and Bahouche go into business together after they are fired from the gendarmerie. So Bahouche, the dirty scuzz fucking military cop who is also part of a paramilitary organization that carried out false flag attacks. This guy ended up going to business with Bagier. What the agency actually did is a mystery, but the pair claim they mostly investigated suspected adultery. Sure. There's also a blackmail aspect. I mean, technically, you're probably... That's one of those things that's like factual but not truthful. He's probably... True. Yeah, it's technically true. There is also a blackmail aspect to this. They take pictures of people where they shouldn't be. And I'm sure this didn't end at just facilitating divorces for rich clients. My opinion is that it was probably a front for much bigger operations. Yeah, I mean, technically suspected adultery is technically, that technically is what these people, if they're like doing awful things to children, that is adultery. Yeah, so.
Gladio over there making fucking websites about people being pedophiles.
Yes, exactly. In 1995, Bahush and Bajir end up actually serving jail time. So they end up in jail in 95. Bajir gets out in 1995 after only 4 years out of the 14-year sentence, which that is also bizarre because reminiscent of Dutroux, who got out. He got, before all the Julie, Melissa, and all the different people who went missing, he actually was in jail, ended up getting like something like a couple of years or something for raping multiple children and kidnapping them, I think. So yeah,
barely got any time at all as well. Yeah.
Yes, which I guess it's pretty common in Belgium for them. People only do 50% of their time, but this was even far more than that.
Dude, and you know that child abuse crimes, pedophilia specifically, are like the hardest crimes to prosecute. Apparently.
Yeah.
Like
makes sense.
successfully. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it is like, I mean, it's, you got to prove it, and it's, you know, you're obviously a kid's probably not the most reliable source of information.
And then you have the false memory syndrome foundation factor and things of that nature. Yeah.
Bummer. All right, in 95, to finish that, they got charged. They had been convicted in the attack and death of a diamond dealer in Antwerp. So this guy got convicted of murdering someone and got 4 years. So
damn.
Yeah, they were also accused of they were also accused of the attack on a funds transit company truck in 1982 in Zaventem Airport. The truck was carrying 40 million Belgian francs, diamonds, gold bars, stock market shares, and watches. Bajir will be caught trying to resell some of the Cartier watches. He'll be sentenced for the resell, but neither Bahush or Bajir will be sentenced for the actual attack, as there was no proof they did it. Years later, in his own book, The Last Lie, in 2010, Bajir will reveal that he and Bahush planned and carried out the attack. Back to the interview. Bajir on Bahush. He had maybe 2 or 3 different lives. People claim that I knew him well. It's not true. I wondered about it with you. It's not true that I knew him well. You fucking had a business with this guy. You fucking carried out crimes with him. Like, people claim that I knew him well.
Barely knew him.
Yeah, barely knew him. Who? Bahush? I wondered about it with the others. Could he have been one of the Brabant killers? That's funny. Could it? Yeah, okay. All right. Bajir says his doubts came when he read about the Westland New Post and Rene Haquin's book about the fascist group. After reading his book, in my mind, I could no longer stay with Bahush. Oh no, this information. We fucking killed people and robbed fucking stuff, but fucking nope, this is where I draw the line. You can't be part of a paramilitary group. He claims to have discovered the links between Bahush and multiple members of WP. Yeah, where he draws the line is, I didn't know he was a Nazi. He's a Nazi?
Oh,
I mean,
my
we killed people and robbed like thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, but like a Nazi? All right. Bajir recalls that Bahush, talking about Latnus, the WNP leader, suicide in 1984, said that this is how traitors die. Bajir at that time also found a gendarmerie map on which Court Saint Etienne, where Latnus lived, was circled by Bahush. Okay, so this is information coming out from him. I guess he found a map from the gendarmerie that was circled by Bahush. So Bahush had circled where Latnus lived. So, okay, that's interesting. Obviously, I think he's in on it. He's trying to be like, look what I saw. He's clearly he's in on it, trying to deflect from himself. Yeah. These are elements Bajir apparently questioned Bahush on to get answers before the two ended their collaboration. Here's another one. Michel Liebert from the WMP had apparently showed an ARI card on a police control to get out of troubles. He wasn't involved in the ARI. I'm trying to remember what the ARI is. We mentioned that earlier. What was the ARI? So, that is the private detective agency, Bajir and Bahush. Okay, so that's a detective agency. So he used, later, Michel Liebert used, a card of theirs to act like he was, kind of with them.
Yeah.
So maybe he was or wasn't, or in with them like that. So interesting,
dude.
Which
so
that's
they
the guy
were
who
weapons smuggling as well.
Yeah.
Like the same organization and Group G that were a part of it. Like they were definitely arms smuggling.
Wait, Group Diane or whatever. Is that what you're talking about?
Do what?
Isn't it Group Diane? Isn't that what they called it or something?
No, it was within the. Group G was within the, I believe it was in the Westland New Post, right? Because it was, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was in they claimed that the Westland New Post was behind the Brabant massacres, was asserted by Marshal LeCue, former member of both Group G and the Westland New Post, who asserted that the original purposes of the killings was to create an atmosphere of fear in Belgium and to blame the attacks on the left. But there's a better rundown of what Group G was. It was like a here it is. It was within the the paramilitary fascist organization of the gendarmerie known as Group G. All right, and that is apparently with the what the goal of Group G was within the gendarmerie was to destabilize the Belgian state and secure power for the far right. And so yeah, that makes sense that they had like this small unit inside the gendarmerie that was tasked with this specific goal, right, of kind of ushering through the Gladio principles of the domestic destabilization concept, you know. But what the fuck? What was I saying before that though? Before I got into the Group G?
I don't remember. I was talking, I think, and then you mentioned Group G. I don't remember exactly. I think that's in relation to, I forget what the tie that binds was here, to be honest with you. But
Right.
I do want to remind you guys, this Michel Liebert guy is also, every time we bring him up, I just want to remind you guys of his significance. He's the one that's on video that, you know, admits he was in the WMP. He also was, I believe, in their Navy or something, I believe he was. So he was able to get access to information. That's part of where the NATO files came from, where they tried to make it look like the USSR was doing stuff when in reality it was them. Like as if they were like espionage type stuff. They were, you know, doing fake espionage essentially. But he was the one who also was doing, you know, intel essentially on the grocery stores that were being targeted for the Brabant killings. So he was the one who was looking like, oh, where's the ingress, egress points? Where's, you know, all the different, like types of things you would need to, you know, the security measures, the stuff you would need to know before you carried out some sort of attack. He was the one who did it, and he was being covered by the gendarmerie. Like they were covering his back. He admitted to this. There was a set of elements which pointed to me that Bahoush was working behind my back, and the W. By the way, this is because I know we just talked about Liebert. This is what's his face, Bajir again. So in quotes, which pointed to me that Bahoush was working behind my back, and the WMP worried me a lot of that time. I always slept with a weapon by my side. I said to myself, I can no longer stay with him, despite what bound us together. I still felt safe because if he snitched on me, I'd snitch on him too. Bahoush accepted to stop working him and said, you're wrong because your name and my name are linked forever. Bajir admits he was right on that. Another element that points toward Bajir and Bahoush being involved in the Brabant killings is the proposed project of supermarkets racketeering, elaborated by Bahoush while still in service in 78 to 80, then after they left the gendarmerie in March 83. Now, I don't really know what like racketeering a supermarket means. But he admits the existence of this project, but he says that he never really adhered to it. It was about blackmail. The first thing I told Madani was that it won't work. All right, because if I'm the supermarket's position, if they come to extort me, I won't fold. Okay, so he's trying to extort supermarkets, which I feel like there's got to be a tie into the Brabant reason. Like, why are they extorting these people? Are there people that have information? And then they're trying to say, oh, this is a racketeering thing or something. I was, you know, like that's what he sells it off as. Anyway, so I told him that this plan of his to racket the board that he had made up in his head, that won't work. The goal was to plant bombs in GB supermarkets and racket them to stop the attacks. Oh, okay, that makes... So yes, that kind of is like another evolution of the Brabant stuff, it seems like. They had the whole thing planned and went as far as renting a warehouse in Brussels, Bouanderie Street in early 84, and accommodating it to fit their plan. Here's how it would have went down. So... to back up, it sounds like he's admitting to this. He admits that but he sells it as like, oh, there's an idea we had, we didn't follow through with it, which I guess they didn't. But the idea that like they were going to do this sounds very familiar to the Brabant stuff. So it almost seems like this would be the next evolution after that if you were going to continue these sorts of things. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking about weapon smuggling before I got sidetracked on Group G.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what it was. But the reason being is because it was like just after the Brabant killings when Madani Bahoush, like you mentioned before, was arrested for that murder of apparently Juan Mendez, a weapons engineer who believed that Bahoush had stolen firearms from him for use in the Brabant killings, which is interesting because that kind of aligns perfectly with how they were also kind of smuggling weapons as well, but then this provides the deniability factor in regard to weapon ownership, which is interesting. But it turns out that dude, there's a direct CIA connection, to Group G that within the Belgian gendarmerie, which was run by the CIA-backed General Leon Francois, right? And the commander of the WNP was, of course, Paul Latinus, and he was also this fascist who had been recruited by the United States Defense Intelligence Agency back in the late 1960s, and even trained by NATO before being recruited by the Bayonets and Bonvoisin-backed Public Information Office, headed by Jean-Marie Bougereau, a member of the SDRA-8. So that is directly tied in to Gladio, right? Because that is the direct connection between the training of Latinus under U.S. intelligence and NATO, his
DIA,
employment by his employment by a member of Belgian's stay-behind network, and his membership in a secret fascist sect within the gendarmerie led by a general handpicked by the CIA. The Westland New Post makes itself known as an obvious extension of the terror networks created by Operation Motherfucking Gladio. Is that not insane? I mean, my God.
Yeah. All right. The person carrying the ransom money from GB would come to the warehouse. They get the money and incapacitate the carrier. They then take off in a tunnel they had digged in the warehouse to reach the sewers. They would have used a dinghy boat to get out in a nearby canal. So to remind you guys, this is just how this plan they had was supposed to play out. The plan that Bajir admitted to, but they just didn't ever end up doing. He admitted that they were going to do this ransom, or they call it racketeering, but essentially the idea was planting bombs in supermarkets and then asking for ransom money in order to get rid of the bombs, essentially, or to not set them off. So
after Madani Buhush got arrested for that murder, did you know that he apparently he was attempting to escape from jail, apparently. In 1988.
I feel like I never showed up on these.
Yeah, he would be released in 1988, even after having been caught trying to break out of jail with the help of the WNP. Yeah. Oh my God.
So they were going to get the money from these people and incapacitate the carrier. So they were going to take the money from the person who gave them and knock them out or kill them or something. So Bajir claims they ended the project because they had a disagreement. The project was interrupted voluntarily and not by an external constraint, which explains that no one would be inculcated, says the article. So even the article is kind of casting shade that like, oh, you guys just you just didn't do this on your own. I would assume that likely plans changed is what I would assume, that like, ideas came from the top that like, oh shit. Cause I don't know if maybe they got exposed at some point. They're like, oh shit, we can't go any further, or they just changed their mind. Robert Bajir was interrogated several times by the Brabant Killers Investigation Cell and passed a lie detector when he was released on parole in the late 90s. He says he hardly sees any more elements he could help with, maybe the WMP if it comes up again. Which, honestly, lie detector means nothing to me. There's so many ways that you can, especially if you have a shady cop to begin with. If they're trying to put their finger on it, they can make you guilty or not guilty. It really depends on what questions they ask you and stuff. You would almost have to be you would have to be like a polygrapher and look at the polygraph test and the questions asked to really come up with probably come to a conclusion if you believe the legitimacy of the test. And even then, there's ways to fake it. So there may be things that I know without knowing it. For example, after providing the files of the BSR, the gendarmerie, for the WNP at the request of Bahush, if I am questioned more precisely on that, I could say that I remember. But without that, I cannot bring any factual element in connection with the Brabant killings. It is impossible. Bajir also talks about the Francois case, a drug bust case, which I think you were talking about this, that went wrong in the early 80s and led to Belgian gendarmes of the drugs unit selling drugs. So this is once again where he's a dirty cop. The DA was involved in their training. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, that's us. I didn't mention what he said about it because I plan on making a thread on the case. I think Bajir is a manipulator and a master liar. He's been shaping the narratives of the cases he's involved with to make him look like the good guy when he's probably just like Bahush, which despite him saying they stopped working together, was a very close friend of his. He claimed innocence and not being involved in a lot of criminal cases in the 80s just to explain them in details years later in his book when he couldn't be charged for them anymore. I don't think he's the key to the Brabant case, but I'm sure he knows more than he says. All right, that's the end of that thread. I mean, there are like a couple more on Bajir that maybe we'll go into later, but I found this particularly interesting. This guy, just a little bit of context that I guess this was in another thread, but when he was arrested in Thailand. He had something like 6 nice properties in there. He was being noted on like hanging out with like the sister of like the king or emperor or whatever the fuck they got in Thailand. Like he was hobnobbing with elites. I guess his visa expired and that's what they got him on there. But yes, this is an ex-cop who got fired from being an ex-cop. He's a guy who's dealt with tons of legal problems, and he has essentially what looks like a shitload of money in Thailand. So very reminiscent of Dutroux, who was a handyman, electrician or whatever, and yet
Dude.
somehow I think he had something like 6 properties or more as well too. So he had a bunch of different properties. It's clearly like, where is this guy coming up with all this money? Same
Yeah.
deal with this Bajir guy. He's supposed to be a guy who got fired as a cop, and somehow he just moved over to Thailand and is living the high life over there. So hanging out with elites. I mean, it's
So-
also, I guess, I remember something in the thread too. Maybe we'll come back to it later. Something in the thread too made it sound weird, and that like, and it gave me kind of implications there's something might be more going on. And something about the way the houses were, like you couldn't see into them or something, almost like they were like made perfectly for privacy. Something weird like that. So you're like, what is going on here?
Dude,
Considering his
did you,
past, it could mean all sorts of things. So
100%.
Yeah.
But there's a brother. So with Jean-Francois Thuriart, who again recruited by the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency, he is directly connected into the infamous Wackenhut Corporation and Permindex.
wait, who's that? Say that again.
Jean-Francois Thuriart.
Okay.
And he's directly connected into the infamous Wackenhut Corporation, which again goes to Danny Castellero's Octopus, the OTS as well, the Order of the Solar Temple, directly connected to Wackenhut and Permindex. These seem to be, it was Wackenhut apparently that was providing the training for the WNP and the Front de Legiones at these paramilitary black sites, these clandestine black sites. And that ties directly into the BCCI scandal, the Bank and Credit Commerce International, where they are clearly a front for financing covert operations for the CIA and the intelligence community. So knowing that BCCI connects to not only Epstein, but fucking Danny Castellero's Octopus, Iran-Contra, what was happening at the Cabazon Indian Reservation with how they were smuggling in drugs through, and also doing like insanely advanced weapons testing, exploiting the reservation. It's entirely, it is extraordinary as far as that's concerned. But then BCCI is also directly connected into how the OTS, the Order of the Solar Temple, had infiltrated the Hydro-Quebec, the hydroelectric company, Hydro-Quebec in Canada. And they were used apparently as members of the OTS who had infiltrated this hydroelectric company were staging domestic chaos operations like Gladio, right? Like staging mass shootings, targeting, as you said, like grocery stores and shit. It was honestly is insane, but they were also caught weapon smuggling. So there you go, right? Because that was what Luc Jouret, he's connected to the SDRA-8. He's connected to, Julian Arrigas, right? And all of that is Belgian Gladio, because Luc Jouret comes from fucking Belgium. So there you go.
Mhm.
Right, the co-founder of the Order of the Solar Temple, a Neo-Templar group that has direct connections to the Rosicrucian Order, and every P2, Le Circle. I mean, my God, right? It ties directly into all of these different cases. At this point, you can tie in BCCI to really, I think, the most extraordinary, covert operations in the past 100 years. Like, it's kind of insane. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And
Yeah.
so anyway, that's pretty extraordinary. Something
Yeah.
worth mentioning.
Well-
But
well,
dude,
all right,
before
brother.
you leave,
Okay,
dude, don't leave me yet, man.
Okay.
No, fucking the corporate fronts for Gladio were Wackenhut and Permindex,
Yeah.
and I think that they were providing the front, the cover operation for the training exercises on these clandestine black sites. And then also, I think it was a method of, crossing international borders with the finances involved. I think that that's very important as far as just the, the operational standpoint of how you kind of move the financial assets around, and providing plausible deniability, of course, as always. But all of these tend to overlap within these, very well represented NATO countries. You know what I mean? And that's something that goes, I think, far too unacknowledged, because these are NATO's secret armies, effectively, is what Gladio really is. But yeah, anyway, beyond that, you have them, dealing and distributing in child pornography as well. So in every single case, right, this is the layered op,
Yeah,
where
it's layered. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah,
the
it's all tied
enterprise.
in. Yeah.
The enterprise never, remains exploiting one aspect of right of kind of like it's just so strange. Like, why would you not? We discuss this very often, as far as, like, of course, if you're weapon smuggling, you're going to be dealing in some sort of child pornography or human trafficking, potentially even.
Well, if you're
But
tied into
anyway,
some other black op already.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, not just a normal drug smuggler. I don't think they're all doing that, but yeah.
No,
I
yeah, I mean,
like,
like,
I know you didn't mean that, but I was just
yeah.
the way you
I
phrased
mean, like,
it could have
more of the
okay.
widespread
Yeah,
networks,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yes.
But
with that, dude, I'm
anyway.
ready to get out of here. I don't know about you. I
Yeah.
really
I need a jet as well.
Okay, I
sure.
didn't know if you want to stick around and fix or knock out like one more of the topics or something. I'll be here tomorrow. I don't know about you, Austin. We can do this again.
We
can
could.
try to.
It would be. I'll let you know, because
Yeah.
I have to go on Ramsey early as well tomorrow. So
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Well, I mean,
I'll
if
let
not,
you
I'll
know if
handle
I'm
it.
gonna
Not
end
a
up.
big deal. But with that, yeah, I'm ready to get out of here. Let me do plugs first so I can jet, because I want to.
Buddy.
And if you send me the new title, the revised title later, I'll update my stuff. So, but yeah, if those who want to support what I'm doing and what we're doing here, you can do that without paying me. The way you can do that is you can like, share, subscribe, comment. Those are all good ways to help boost us up in the algo, help us advance. Go leave a 5-star review if you're listening to an audio podcast. Also, if you do want to support me, if you do want to give us money, or me money particularly, I'm appreciative of that. You can do it over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2, and that's where you get access to the early episodes. For example, like I'm dropping my OKC episode with Jonathan Franklin and Richard Booth tomorrow. You could have had that for like a week now. I also have currently behind the paywall an analysis of True Detective Season 1. That'll come out next week. So these are things you could get if you were giving me money. You can also be a talking head on Already Dead with me and Austin for the call-in portion of the show. You can do a video call-in. That's on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. You can join us there. And also you can get ad-free RSS feed there. And my highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. My co-host on Terragang at TerragangToad, also at AbrogateDs, and ZOVRACK at _Infant Zeal, Tim Tuttle at Jolly on Cleveland, Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, the big fan of the show, Torn Mate, then at INWARD Lover. And last but not least, since I didn't pay the bills earlier, I do want to remind you guys that if you do want to support this show, one way you can do that is and get a product out of it. A solid product is you can go to Doe Shave Co. You can get this razor. This is much better than the multi-blade alternative. I'll just run through it real quick. This is going to give you a better shave. That single blade is going to give you a much smoother shave. It's going to jack up your face a lot less. So it's better for your skin. It's a better shave. It's a cheaper product. It's much cheaper than those multi-blade cartridges. $75 for an entire year. Let's be real though. It's probably going to last you a lot longer. And if you're someone who shaves on the daily though, you're going to want to consider the Quarter Shave Club. But it's also, so it's a lot cheaper. This company's a COVID mandate refusing company. It was born out of it. So with that, this is a company that doesn't hate your guts. So somewhat comports to your values, likely if you're a watcher of the show. And then on top of all that, you can get 10% off by using Jose at checkout. Let him know I sent you. It's a great product, great guy, great company. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Austin, you can do your plugs and you can kill it. Love you, buddy. I'll see you all. Deuces. Bye-bye.
All right, you motherfuckers. Before I jet, I might as well try and briefly cover and introduce one other topic, and then we'll get out of here. But honestly, we'll end up, I think, covering more of the details, probably Jose and I together, because it has so many direct connections into the Dutroux network that it'll be worthwhile. Plus, it very much ties in the snuff film aspect of the enterprise, right? Which I think is too often overlooked, and of course, with the historical nature of how it was kind of conflated to be this myth this sort of non-existent threat. That was very much proven to not be the reality. I think over the recent recent history, it's been too much evidence has been provided, to the contrary. But I think a good way to introduce it would be the William Ramsey tweet, actually, because he just tweeted. I had mentioned about how William F. Buckley Jr. talks about Dershowitz and his opinion on snuff films, and it's kind of a good place to start, I guess, if we're going to discuss that for just a moment. All right, let's check this out.
Of getting me convicted, but they can try. But the film I can keep making money from?
I thought that was a
That's
dude.
protected?
I'm not going to lie to you. From the outside looking in on this clip, I thought this was a man. That struck me a little bit.
Of getting me convicted, but they can try. But the film I can keep making money from? That's
There is a
protected?
great deal of evidence to demonstrate, probably more evidence on this side than on the other side, that exposure to what you call pornography, if anything, inhibits illegal sex conduct. No, that is, but there
I
is
would
a
like
lot of
you to
learning to
speak
that
to
effect.
what happens to a woman who has been raped and the rape has been filmed and the films are being sold. Just that.
This is a very interesting point. I had a debate with Alan Dershowitz at the Harvard Law School 3-4 years ago, and he was taking the flat-out pill position. You can't censor anything. And I said, well, what about a snuff film? Do you know what that is? People get killed.
That is actually, it's never been proved there is such a thing.
Never mind. And though he kind of didn't like that. Well, he said, it would be all right. You would have to protect a snuff film that was made abroad, because then the murder would not be something that had been, so to speak, licensed deliberately in America. I thought that a high form of sophism to say it's okay to show films of people getting killed as long as you kill them outside the continental limits.
And do you ever look at television or movies? There are people getting killed all over the home screen.
Wow. Well, that goes to show you that the narrative, the long-standing narrative, has been that this is some sort of, really pop culture myth in a way, and that's just been proven to not be the case. Especially you look into the Oakland County child killer case, which in Operation Flicker as well. Which you just look into Operation Flicker and you realize how much federal involvement there was. The Pentagon releasing 94 pages of documents relating to investigations that date back to 2002. Many names and details blacked out, but the facts, are clearly disturbing. You have a contractor with top secret clearance tasked with providing support to the National Security Agency, charged with possessing child pornography. Investigators say he tampered with his work computer after agents searched his home. He fled the country and is believed to be in Libya. The case is closed until he is arrested and extradited. A National Reconnaissance Office contract employee acknowledged he regularly viewed sexually explicit images of children. One sailor admitted to accessing child pornography while stationed on the naval destroyer USS Mason. He was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison. And you can go through the report of the investigation, and it is, it's damning. It's very disturbing to realize that. And apparently, Operation Flicker, the purpose of it was to shut down this child pornography online. But in the process, they find that all these government and military personnel were viewing and downloading vast amounts of child pornography on their work computers. And then the operation was essentially covered up, really, because there was very, very little accountability that took place. But you combine that with the stories of, let's say, Azov Films and Project Spade. You look into Project Spade and you begin to realize, the vast amount of just how much it's as far as just the investigations cover over 50 countries and 400 people arrested internationally, over 386 children said to have been rescued. And the primary producers this was during the Project Spade international police investigation. So the primary producers were like Ukrainian Igor Rusanov and Andrei Ivanov in Crimea, Ukraine, Marcus Roth in Romania, Paul Kruger in Germany, and it was really it discovered like this Canadian child pornography network, right? Which is apparently here. I'll pull up this article because it's very interesting. Hundreds were held. And so yeah, police in Canada say 348 people have been arrested and nearly 400 children rescued during a 3-year investigation into child pornography. And this was Azov Films was marketing the footage as naturist and claimed it was legal in Canada and the US. The films were distributed in 94 countries. In Canada, 108 arrests were made, with another 76 in the US and 164 in other countries during the investigation, codenamed Project Spade. And it gets far more disturbing as you get into the details of what exactly they discovered through this investigation. But you know, I would be here for the rest of the day if we're going to really actually get into the details and cover that specifically. But before I do leave, I wanted to mention the fact that, man, it came up. I was looking at Paul Bonacci, right, as far as just his connection to the Franklin scandal and also the Confessions of a DC Madam and what was happening with the White House tours, the midnight tours at the White House with these call boys. And anyway, it turns out that Paul Bonacci, according to Anton Chaikin's 1993 interview with him, basically, of course, the witnesses in the Franklin case implicated FBI and U.S. Government officials and elites in child torture and murder, and that included in snuff films. And it was reported that Bonacci was smuggling child pornography in the Netherlands on behalf of NAMBLA members, trips on behalf of the North American Man-Boy Love Association, the pedophile group now given semi-official status by the United Nations. Paul cites traveled to the Netherlands and Germany carrying child pornography for subsequent import to the U.S. to avoid prosecution. In Amsterdam, he names Charles Hester and the British Tommy Carter, who had on computer a global list of child pornography users. NAMBLA is also cited for organizing auctions of children, which, that's exactly what came up in the context of the Franklin scandal, as far as these children auctions being held even within the domestic U.S. In Vegas, I think, was one of the named locations. But when it boils down to it, this is a vast, widespread phenomena of child abuse, and it's very strange to me that people attempt to dismiss the reality of snuff films and the enterprise behind them, and how well established they clearly are, and also the cover-ups that are very much facilitated on their behalf once they're ever revealed to the public in the first place. And it's extraordinary how well the cover-up it's very efficient, right? They tend to be able to kind of hide a lot of this evidence from the public spotlight just by not running as far as like nationwide publications. They never pick up on this due to the Mockingbird asset factor. I think it's very obvious. You have the producers in these mainstream media publications. It's just like the hot mic. Who was the woman who had the hot mic over Epstein? I'm trying to remember her name now, but I had actually put that clip in one of my episodes, and it's her essentially saying that I had the story for all this time, and now it's going public. But my producers put a stop to it when I attempted to bring the story to the table and reveal all of this information and help bring accountability and justice to the victims. And she's basically saying that the higher ups in the media organization had shut it down. And this was a mainstream media publication. So of course that is the status quo. That is par for the course. But so this is why you compromise you know, you have compromised assets running these organizations. So you can leverage them to your benefit, obviously, for these cover-ups to take place. But anyway, last thing I'll say is essentially surrounding the North Fox Island network, which is a Michigan-based child pornography ring uncovered in the mid 1970s with its base of operations on a private island belonging to an old money scion named Francis Sheldon. Now, he's suspected of financing these snuff films. There's very much evidence to prove this, and the investigation leads internationally in scope, of course, with surprising continuity into the circumstances surrounding the 1982 Elm Guesthouse scandal in the UK and its connection to a VIP pedophile ring of high-level government officials via a pedophile network called Spartacus. So that network, in turn, was linked to a snuff film operation in Amsterdam during the early 1990s, which was also associated with a broader child murder network linked to Belgian serial killer Marc Dutroux. So there you go. I honestly think the level of detail we would need to get into to break down this connection and how directly it's associated with the Dutroux network, it would take some time. So I should probably do that with Jose as well at some point. Just yeah, who knows? We'll figure it out. But it would be nice to make this connection as far as to kind of implement, just the connection to Dutroux alone as far as North Fox Island. But Francis Sheldon and the Elm Guesthouse very much seems like it's Gladio in as far as just the connections are too it's too evident. It very much seems as if this was potentially another enterprise directly affiliated with the Gladio network. So let's see, hold on, I need to look at the chat here for a moment. Keith Champ, what's up, brother? I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. What's your thoughts on Epstein Mossad giving donations to live streamers like JF Garapi? I'm not sure who that is. Control the online narrative, monitor people in the chats like me who don't like it. P.S. JF wife is missing. Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to look this up, man, because I was not aware. Hell yeah. Awesome, Jose. Well, we got to tie it in. I really think it would be perfect for TFH because the Francis Sheldon connection is just like, it's one of the most extraordinary things, but this would be the best example of the snuff films and how that can tie it back with the Dutroux enterprise and how they kind of function, in general. So I think that would be perfect. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, I'm going to look into this guy, JF. Yeah, I'm unaware of this individual. So now that as a strategy, as far as donating to live streamers and and controlling the narrative, yeah, that would be par for the course, man. Like I wouldn't at all be surprised or shocked by that being a deliberate tool leveraged and exploited to kind of benefit the narrative control operation. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, buddy. So I will look into that and try and bring it to the table with some more, details, and maybe I'll have something to add. But it's how they operate, man. What do these spooks do? They deal in deception. They're mind manipulators. So the goal is to always, pursue full spectrum dominance, which always involves controlling the narrative, which inevitably controls the outcome. So here we are, remaining skeptical, surrounded by spooks, but it's the year of the schizo, brother. So, I think we really have the tools necessary to kind of interpret these things as they come. And as long as we remain objective and open-minded, then I think we can only end up in a better place as far as like our conceptual solution for how we can approach this reality that we're facing here, But anyway, I think I probably should jet. I have so much shit I need to do today, and but I will say, man, definitely like, share, subscribe if you guys enjoy this. Yeah, Jose, please gives us money. Exactly. Uh, oh wow, Alan Omofo. I will prostitute myself for your funding. Hey man, taking one for the team, my brother. Oh man. Well, all right, guys. I should probably jet. Well, I'll catch you guys in the next couple days for sure. And I hope you have a good Epstein files release day, and come to the terms where you realize and understand that anything of any real substance will most definitely be redacted. And when she says some, yeah, keep that in mind as well, because I'm sure the Mossad connections will be the least of anyone's concern. But hey, peace. Y'all stay real out there for sure. All right, guys, support me at the Underclass Podcast. Definitely go subscribe to the Patreon if you can. Alan Omofo, my substance will pay your bills. Yeah, but beyond that, guys, yeah, subscribe to the Patreon. I know we're gonna be doing another episode of whatever this is here in the next few days as well. So as far as the paywalled content with Sam and Brad and who knows, we might have Jose on this time. I'm not sure. I know that we're talking about having guests for sure, so that's definitely something we want to do. But yeah, if you guys can support me, clearly, I appreciate any kind of support and engagement. But nothing but love for all you guys, man. I appreciate the like-minded, just the ability to kind of like fraternize with like-minded individuals. Man, it's a necessity for me personally. So nothing but love, and you guys have a good day. I'll catch you probably tomorrow, but either way, check you later.